the ever-changing weather around the world, ever-diverse terrain and roads across the world. With Kumho Tyre that has conquered all. There is no road you cannot go. Go with Kumho. Kumho Tyre.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome through myself, Cam, Veacock, and I here tonight from a good old local track of Sandown based in Melbourne. So it's certainly a nice one not to be going overseas this time. Cam, how are you tonight?
Not too bad, mate. It's been a busy week, and these guys have got a long race ahead of them. I feel 300 kilometres or 97 laps is going to be a bit of a feat.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel you there on the busy week, but yeah, it's certainly not going to be. I don't think our weeks are going to be anywhere near as busy as what the boys are going to be tonight. So it's going to be very, very full-on race here because even though it's a local track here, Sandown, and it's fantastic to watch, if you're a driver, you really get zero chance to even get a breath in, really. So it's bumpy, it's short, there's a lot going on. Very small track for the amount of cars that are here, but for viewing, going to be super exciting to say the least.
Yeah, definitely right. You've hit the nail on the head there. It's going to be absolutely fantastic to watch all these guys try and throw their cars around here. There is no time for them to actually break. It's going to be full on.
Yeah, so it's as we come into tonight, though, yeah, certainly we've had a few mix-up rounds of late with a few longer ones and a few sprint rounds in between. So tonight's a little bit of the opposite end of the scale. So the 300 kilometers is certainly going to be a very challenging one to say the least, because a lot of the guys are going to have to think about turn one, lap one, for example, and also just the first couple of stints in general. So it's going to be very, very hard to get these cars off the line, but also just being able to survive the start of this race. That's going to be the first challenge for them. Once you survive the first stint or two, you can really start getting into a rhythm and know who's around, who's going to be the one to try and battle with, who you're going to let go. But I know there's a few boys that are really good at fuel saving, but this track isn't exactly a fuel saving type of track. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out tonight.
Yeah, definitely right. As we just go back and have a look at the quick grid quickly of all these cars, all trying to get their starts all done. They're peeling straight out of the pit lane, crossing over in the middle of the track, and it's absolute chaos at the moment.
So I think a lot of them are, yeah, have been doing heaps of laps, and I've heard rumours that a couple of the boys have been doing 200 to 300 laps throughout the week, which is, I don't know if those rumours are true or not, but if they are, that is a mega effort. But yeah, I wonder out of all that, I don't think many of them have been practicing their starts as we see the boys get ready for tonight's race.
Yeah, definitely right. I think these cars are very, very finicky to try and get off the line. You've got a heavy fuel tank in them, lots of power, and not the best clutch in the world to get them off the line. So I think a lot of guys are practicing their starts to make sure they can get them up and hopefully avoid carnage at turn one.
Yeah, it's because it's very wide as we can sort of see here. There's along the main straight here, you can easily fit 4 or 5 cars wide to say the least, but once you start getting into turn one, the track starts getting very narrow very quickly. So it'll yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And once they're all up and running and finally into it, we'll yeah, we'll see how it all pans out from there.
Yeah, definitely right. It's one of the guys. Welcome on board, Ben and Stephen, for to the chat tonight. Stephen just mentioned it. It's also our retro round this race, so you might see a lot of cars, a lot of your favourite cars out there running a livery that may not necessarily you see regularly, like the Type N Esports Commodore of Greg Favell running the old Tirana livery, dating back to I can't remember what year that was. I'm sure one of the guys in the comments will chip me on it, but
if it's any consolation, I'm going to play the youthful card here and say I have no idea either, but it certainly looks good.
yeah, definitely right. I might just try and go through some of the cars and actually have a look at who some of the guys that run the livery. So John Latham, another car that has a retro livery on, just the black and gold Commodore here with race cars down the side. I know the ERT boys, if we can find one of those cars out on track. They are running a livery that was one of their original liveries they ran back in the day when they first started as a team, so it's definitely good to see.
Yeah, so I certainly do like these retro rounds. It's a lot of, especially for the paint boys in all of these teams, it's a lot of extra effort, but when you see that extra effort out on track and see how good some of these are, like we always bang on about how good the current modern day liveries are, but I feel like retro rounds just something extra special.
Yeah, definitely right. It's as we can see, another Fishy Motorsports car here running a retro livery there, not their common glossy, very bright livery.
So put a few of them together though, we certainly will see a sushi train or two tonight in action, I reckon.
That's definitely right. Now, a car that is standing out tonight with their livery choice is Mark Duggan's Mustang, the 864 Mustang, running with the I think the original Brute 33 livery there, with a very chromed up car.
Yeah, it's certainly a shiny one to say the least.
Yeah, I think he's probably spent a lot of time during the week polishing that to get it to that sort of stature. But no, it's great to see some of these cars out on track running these different liveries.
Yeah, it's always a good one, but yeah, there's certainly not lots of different camera angles, and one of the big parts about Sandown that everyone loves to complement these liveries, as we see them go through that section there, it's a lot of big curbs around here, but they're curbs that you can actually drive over and not hurt your time too much. You can use a lot of the curb around here, which from a camera point of view looks spectacular.
Yeah, definitely right. As they come down into turn 1 and 2 complex, there's a lot of curb that can be taken as we move to the grid. So while these cars are starting to grid up, we might start running through the grid as we can get them once some of the cars at the front start to line up. Let's see if we can find a better camera angle here. There we go. That's gonna look nice coming down to turn 1. So
Yeah.
I'll let you kick it off, Nathan.
Yeah, so tonight in pole position, once again, we have Greg Favell starting this 300-kilometre race. In second place, so we have Scott Gamble. So these boys are running up the front for a lot throughout this season so far. So it'll be interesting to see what they do over the long distance. Kenneth Latta rounds out our qualifying podium in third place there. Mr. Mark Duggan, Duggs himself, is in fourth, not far away, waiting for the action to unfold in front of him. And we have Anthony Visma in fifth place tonight. Then in sixth, we have Michael Taliangic in there. Seventh, we have Matt Van Der. Eighth, Scotty McCune. Ninth, we have Jeff Thomas. And in 10th place, only 6/10 away from the leader, we have Mr. Stephen Kennedy.
That's a
Then in 11th.
that's a very tight field there in with all those 10 cars.
Yeah, that's extremely tight. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen throughout tonight. As we in 11th place, we have Mr. Christian Smart there and Dan Hall rounding out the 12.
Moving on to P13, we have Simon Heddersheed from Fully Serve United. Alongside him will be Damien Cairns in the Type N Esports Commodore. Peter Vanderkraan in position 15. Alongside that will be Darren Goosey in P16. Down in P17, we've got Dean Flavell. Alongside him will be Jason Spriggs in another Type N Esports car. In position 19, we have Robert Crisdale from Frog Leap Juice Racing. And alongside Robert will be Travis Hunt in the 32 Commodore, I believe. Sorry, I think it's a Mustang, my apologies. In position 21, we have Stuart Hall from Nova Motorsports alongside the People's Champ, Jamie McKnight, in the 027 Commodore. In position 23, we have David Kirby from Fishy Motorsports, and alongside him will be Darren Crosby from M1 Racing.
Then going into position number 25 there, we have Rick Viger Then in 26th place we have Anthony. Sorry, that's a little blurry on my end. Adam Simpson we had there. Matty Parker is in 27th place. 28th we have Rick Biger. 29th John Latham. 30th place is Chad Lewis. Then in position number 31 we have John King, closely followed by Marty Hansen in position number 32. Michael Quain in 33rd with Michael Schroeder in 34th. Martin Casey, and then the race control car in 36 there. So the race control boys there. But yeah, in 35th we have Marty Casey rounding out the grid there for split one. But can't forget the race control boys in the server tonight as well, helping us out as always.
Yeah, definitely big shout out to those guys. They give up their time every week to put on this show for us, and what a good job they do. As we are just about ready to start to go green, as we will start to hear the cars revverize as they will now. And we'll see what the action unfolds into turn number one.
And they're away. Here we go. Another night of racing.
Looks like the goal got away nice and clean as they come down into turn one.
I think the leaders filing through nicely. Everyone giving plenty of room. Heaps of two wide action here, but here's where it really bottlenecks into turn 3 and turn 4. Leaders, the whole lead group, first half of the field, you'd almost say, have all made it through very, very nicely here. Everyone giving heaps of racing room. No one wants to get these retro liveries damaged at all. Fantastic to see. Super clean.
Yeah, definitely right. I think these guys are a bit smarter this time. It's a 300-kilometre race, so they know that they need to be there towards the end. It's all good and well being out in front early, but you definitely need to be there at the end, and I think they've all done really well to get through lap 1, or most of the way through lap 1 without an incident, just to make it clean and keep the cars clean and straight for the rest of the race.
Yeah, exactly. As they're coming through, launching it over the curbs into the final corner. It's actually quite hard to get traction down at this part of the track, but smooth throttle application certainly gives you a much better run, as we see Greg just showing the nose a little bit on Scott there. But again, if you're in Greg's shoes right now, you'd be happy to be in P2 and you'd be happy to start thinking about the long term right now and fuel saving when you can.
Yeah, 100% correct. That's exactly what you'd be doing at this point in time. Just as I've literally come across and looking at one of my other screens here, my timing screen, Michael Schroeder's had a bit of an incident as he's come down into, I think it's Dandenong, so we might just use the replay, the Kumho Tyres replay now everyone's settled, and go back and have a look at what's happened. So it's like there's been a nice big battle down here. Schroeder's unfortunately kicked that inside curb, and after that he was just a passenger. So
yeah.
Hopefully there's not too much damage to either Michael or John Latham's car with that incident.
Yeah, hopefully not. It's quite we were talking about the curbs and how much you can use them, but going into Dandenong there, quite violent that the last inside curve on the left hand side before you actually turn into Dandenong itself. So there's still a lot of care and respect that you have to have for the track around here.
Yeah, 100% correct. It appears that we have another car that is currently stuck in the fence at Dandenong. Adam Simpson.
Oh.
Looking at my second screen here, Adam Simpson's had a bit of a moment, and I believe he may be potentially stuck in the fence at Dandenong, which it looks like he is. So we might end up seeing our first safety car here of this race. So we'll just keep an eye on that for you and see if he manages to get that car out of the fence there. Hopefully he does. But we don't know at this stage.
Yeah, the last thing you want is to be at the start of a race like this, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, it's night time already. It's all you want to do is survive and get going. But yeah, we'll see what race control do and see if he's in if they deem it to be a safe enough spot, or if that quantum safety car is going to make it out or not.
Well, just having a quick look there, looking at my timing board, the safety car is on the move, so I think we are going to have our first safety car of the evening.
Yeah.
Which has been brought because of this this race. So look, that's very unfortunate for Adam there, as unfortunately the Quantum Solutions safety car is not being displayed tonight. So I'll have to have a chat to one of the boys about that. I think they may have a livery on that's a retro livery. Okay, so I understand what's happened here. Our regular safety car driver unfortunately is not out on track at the moment, so I believe that's what the confusion is here. So my apologies with that. it is meant to be the Quantum Solutions safety car, but unfortunately, I believe the safety car driver tonight is Jordan Ross in that Synergy Sim Racing Porsche.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense as to what may be happening there. But no, but it's like we were saying earlier, it's always a big thank you to anyone in race control and those boys for certainly helping in and helping out and jumping in to officiate nights like tonight, especially such long races too. So it's always nice to see. Have a few little hiccups on the way, but it's just one of those things. It's without, at the end of the day, without race control and these boys in there, we wouldn't be able to do this what we're doing right now.
Yeah, definitely right. So it looks like actually my, if I'm going through another screen at the moment, it's saying that the safety car is having some hardware issues. So we'll say that he may have had a bit of an issue trying to get out of the pit lane, which is what's brought our backup driver to come on track tonight.
Yeah, okay, that's a another plot twist in the story.
Yeah, definitely right. My apologies, Stephen. It was up, but it somehow must have disappeared. So, as Adam Simpson now has towed back to the pit lane.
Yep, so he's back out in there. So yeah, it's good that good that race control are all over it and able to hopefully try and minimise the safety car time that we have here at the moment. But it's the good part about it being such a short lap is hopefully we're able to get back racing sooner rather than later. But yeah, it's interesting here. I don't think I've seen, I don't know about you, Cam. I was trying to have a bit of a look around. I don't think anyone's jumped into the pits to just re-top up their tank.
So according to my time, I've actually got 5 cars that have gone to pit lane, which is John King,
Wow.
Chad Viger, Michael Schroeder, and John Latham. They've gone in early to try and top that car up. So while we're on the safety car, I'll just quickly have a look at what happened to Adam. I believe it was at Dandenong. He had a problem, so we'll use the Kumho Tyres replay to have a look. So that's very unfortunate for Adam there. It appears as though he's just been caught out by another vehicle and then has rolled slowly back into the fence, and that Armco barrier has grabbed hold of that Mustang and is not going to let go of it. So that's extremely unfortunate for Adam in that circumstance, but we know that these cars sometimes get stuck in the Armco fence and it just doesn't want to give them up.
Yeah, it's sometimes these Armco fences are just even some of Tyre barriers and that, but in particular the Armco fences can be very particularly grabby, and if you hit them with enough pace, they can even be grabby and throwy, to use proper terminologies right there.
Well, that's exactly right. So as we now look at it, the Quantum Solutions car has now pulled away, and what I might try and do here is we'll jump on board with Mr. Greg Favell here and see if I can actually get it to show his onboard cockpit down the bottom right hand side of the screen here, so we can see what it looks like for him at the moment. And I'm not sure if you can see it there, Nathan, but he's actually in 5th gear, so I believe he's trying to save some fuel.
Yeah, no, it's definitely working there on my end. It's certainly fuel saving game. Like we were saying, it's very hard around here because there's not many spots you can actually clutch in or roll out of it. And correct me if I'm wrong, we may even have Mr. Stephen Murray in the pits running around for us again, but I believe it's around about 3 litres per lap, plus or minus the estimation, so anything they can save will be good.
Yeah, definitely right. As Greg is now taking the advantage of that last chicane there to pull away on the field, and he's got a bit of a gap over Scott Gamble as he run down into turn 1. Really 7/10 already, so that's a great strategy plan of Greg's there to get away.
Yeah, it's certainly a good spot of the track to try and do your best to pull away from the field there. Everyone's balked up. Everyone has to wait for that final corner before they can get down. If you get down too soon on the power, it gets very slippery very quickly. So he's done very well here. He has.
Yeah, definitely right. As we move back through the field, as these guys start to all sort of themselves out, and Mark Duggan's actually come to position, so that's a good job by Mark to be up in now P3 after the restart. Michael Taliansich behind him for Pursuit Sim Racing is currently in position number 4. So I expect big things from these couple of guys at the front here. I think once they find their rhythm, find their straps, they'll start to run away.
Yeah, I reckon it'll be I definitely agree with you there. They'll all settle in pretty quickly. Like, it's the first 2 to 3 laps, which is probably closer to the first about 5 laps after a restart here at Sandown. where you really start getting into your rhythm and really start getting into your normal racing lap times and doing your own thing from that point of view. So because of how short it is around here, before you know it, 10, 20, 30 laps sort of pass by.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the average lap time around here is about 1:06 at the moment, with Greg Gravel setting the fastest lap of 1:06.9. So between 1:06 and 1:07 lap times are taking part around this track. So while yes, it does seem like a 300-kilometre race and it can be a long one, it won't actually be that bad with those lap times.
Yeah, it's one where especially if you're very respectful to the tyre as well, you can maintain a very similar lap time to your PB very well. Like it's not one where like we've seen other tracks where the tyre and tyre life, for example, last week at the Red Bull Ring, it comes at all. As we see a mega move here from Travis Hunt coming up the inside towards the end of Dandenong. How's he going to go here? Around the outside, but he might be up the inside for the final corner of the track if he can pull it off. And he's done it around the outside there.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing for, I believe that's Darren Goosey behind him is that's also opened the door for another couple of other cars to have a bit of a crack there because it's put them offline. So using that advantage, they can get that power down. And as we come down, nearly looking like we're going to go three cars wide to turn one.
Oh, he seems to sort themselves out. All coming through. Jamie choosing the wiser option there, not wanting to be the car 3 wide on the outside there.
Yeah, definitely right. 3 wide. Well, yes, it is. This does come down to the main straight being very, very wide. That 90-degree left-hander into turn one tightens up very quickly. Stephen's reached out and asked, can you dump into the pits lane and get some fuel numbers?
I'll certainly do my best. Hold tight with me, Stephen. I'll see if Larko's happy to help out here for a minute. But there's I've done a few laps around here myself. Certainly not to the extent that the other boys have done, but I'm sure we can figure out something with regards to fuel numbers.
That's right. This week I might take that off you and I might jump into the Synergy Sim Racing Garage and see if I can get some data for you.
It's getting exciting. This is.
We'll see what I can grab. We'll have a look.
Yeah, this battle pack seems to a lap ago they were all fighting very hard for it, but they all seem to have settled in very, very nicely, to say the least. So a bit like, but to be fair, they're all very, very close to each other still. Though any of these boys make a mistake, and before you know it, you're either going to be gaining a spot or two, or you're going to be losing 5 or 6 spots in one hit. So it's a very, very big freight train, to say the least.
Yeah, look, it's going to be one of those things, and I think this race is going to be all about attrition. We talked about it earlier, like these guys are going to drive as fast as they can with Greg Gravel putting in a massive gap out now and trying to get some of that clean air on the left-hand side to stop Scott Gamble using his draft. I think it's going to be massive with fuel here to make sure that they do try and save as much as they possibly can, because I think that's where a lot of time and that's going to be made at this time is with fuel.
Yeah, exactly, and it's one of those other ones where, yeah, even though it is very hard around here with how tight the track is, it's a very limited opportunity to pass around here. Yeah,
definitely right. As we just had our first penalty handed down, so there was a pit lane penalty to car number 263 for contact on lap 1. So that's very unfortunate, I believe, for Michael Schroeder, but that was where he put the curb on the inside coming down into Dandenong and was just a passenger after that, taking out, I believe, John Latham there. So look, these guys are battling very, very hard, and they're going to continue to battle very hard all night.
Yeah, exactly. There's certainly no love lost from that point of view, but it is, like, as always, it's always great to see the amount of racing room and respect that they do give, but at the end of the day, they're all still pushing to the absolute limit, so it is very easy to see the odd mistake here or there from the boys.
Definitely right, as we jump on board with Anthony Visma, who's now under attack from Kenneth Ladder on the inside down into turn 1. Bit of a fun fact about Anthony Visma, I managed to sneak into his garage earlier tonight, and he's actually running a child's wheel tonight because he's having a few hardware issues, so...
Child's wheel?
The way he used to describe it was the wheel wheel rim itself is actually very, very tiny. So I'm not sure what's going on there with Anthony, but we might have to have a chat with him later. He'll probably kill me for giving that information up, but you know, we like to sneak in these little garages and get the inside goss on these guys.
Yeah, exactly. It might appear innocent at the time, but I mean, if it provides good entertainment for us, then that's all we can hope for.
There's another racing truck penalty come through, so that was car number 66 has suffered a pit lane penalty for lap 2, an incident happened on lap 2. So that was Darren Crosby involved with a bit of incident on lap 2 there.
Yeah, that's the pit lane here at Sandown isn't as long as other tracks we've been to, but with how short, like a minute 7 or 67 seconds to get around here and to complete one lap, it's not a track that you really want to be doing a pit lane drive-through around, because it is very, very easy to go one lap down, especially if you're not on leader's pace.
Yeah, definitely right. And with that pit lane entry, so I suffered an incident here when I was racing in one of the events where the car in front of me, and I believe it was one of your teammates, unfortunately, decided to go into the pit lane, and I had nowhere to go because I pushed out a little bit too far on the right-hand side, and unfortunately, the next thing you know, I've made slight contact to the rear of one of the WKMP cars, because it's just one of those pit lane entries here, like Warren Park.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen unless they're giving you forewarning that it is going to happen. You don't know.
Yeah.
So it's anyone's guess what happens. As we jump further back into the field with another battle going on between Damien Cairns in the Tyre Esports alternate livery here. One of the retro livery cars battling on with Simon Heddersheed for position 13 currently. So Damien's done a good job. He's up one position from his starting grid position. So hopefully he can keep pushing forward with that Commodore.
It's certainly a very good-looking Commodore, to say the least. It's good to see that he's on board with retro around here this evening. So we'll see how it looks toward the end of the evening compared to how it is now.
Yeah, definitely right. It looks like we have had a change of the lead at the front, so Scott Gamble has managed to get around Greg Veld. So I'm not sure what's happened with Greg, whether he's had a bit of a moment, so we might just try and come back and see if we can see what has happened. And it looks like we're probably down the main straight here, so we're coming down into turn 1, and it looks like Scott's managed to get the car a bit more settled as Greg gets the car a little bit taily and then has lost all that drive on corner exit.
Yeah, so a lot more easily done. Like the setup this week looks fantastic, especially considering with how bumpy this track is. But say that with how bumpy this track is, it is very easy to get the car slightly unsettled and not have it quite go your way when you're under brakes here.
Yeah, definitely right. As we look at, there's all battles all the way through the field. So these first top 4 cars here, Scott Gamble, Greg Veld, Mark Duggan and Michael Taliantich are in a good battle here, and they have been from the start. And then we drop about 2 seconds back to Kenneth Ladder in position number 5, who then drops another 2 seconds back to Anthony Visma. But then behind that battle, we have Scott McCune and another train of about 4 cars here. So I think what we're going to see is a lot of these little battle packs happening all the way through the night.
And one extra little bit that I'm going to touch on now, very quickly on the whole battle pack side and sort of how close but far some of these packs are, is lapped cars are going to become a big issue tonight. Like, not saying any of the boys are slow or anything like that by any means, but how short the track is, and depending on your pit stop strategy and the pit cycles, to be a lap down around here, as soon as you're a lap down, it can become very, very hard to become competitive for the night. And with how long the race is, it's certainly not, even in real world stuff, it's not unheard of to have a half a field a lap down around Sandown. Even in main game, it's very, very tricky. We see a little bit of Scotty McCune under huge pressure here at the moment.
Yeah, with Jeff Thomas and Matt Vanderkram battling right behind him there. So Scott had a bit of a minor end. He locked a brake coming into turn 1, which put him completely off track there. So Matt Vanderkram and Jeff Thomas definitely looked to take advantage of it, but now they've got themselves in their own battle through turns 2 and 3, and that's let Scott sort of reset and now manage to drive on a little bit and start chasing back down Anthony Visma.
Yeah, as quickly as that around here, all of a sudden you go from, wow, I'm under pressure to, oh yeah, got a bit of clear air, and if you've got a guy attacking, as we've seen in other battle packs, Christian Smart's trying to make his way into the top 10. It's, yeah, it's very easy for your game to go from attacking and offensive to defensive very quickly.
Yeah, definitely right. As we look at a couple of different cards, we got a Retro Riddler here. Christian Starts trying to get past Dan Hall, who's running that better electrical 888 livery on the Ford Mustang. As he's made a bit of a mistake as he's gone wide with Christian attempting to try and make a move behind him. And then just in front of that, we've got Stephen Kennedy running the Win M1 livery there. Obviously, adage to a very, very well-known car. I believe they raced a Skyline in the same livery there for a while.
Yeah, certainly that better electrical one, it's one that stands out almost in any field anywhere you go. It's a one of those good liveries that never gets old. Pun unintended, by the way.
Definitely right. It's probably one of my favourite liveries I've seen, even over the time. It was one of those cars that absolutely stood out. Christian appears to continue to really apply the pressure to Dan Hall here, hoping Dan's going to make a bit of a mistake. And we might have a look here and see if Christian can make this move stick, as he looks to have got a better run coming out of the final corner into the main straight. So Christian is a big mover under brakes, and it looks like at the moment he's just trying to put a hell of a lot of pressure on Dan.
Yeah, there's certainly it's one of those things as well. In a lot of the mind games, we see the cars launch over the curves through here. It's one of those mind game features around here where, yeah, it's because you've got such a limited opportunity, and you very, very quickly figure out the parts of the track where you're good and where the others are better than you, where, yeah, you're not necessarily so good. It's very, very easy to figure out all those rhythms and, I guess, routines, I guess, is another word that you could use for it, throughout the whole lap around here in the cycle, where it's, if you know that you can get away with it, half a tenth here or there can be enough where you go, you know what, I'm going to bite my tongue for 5 to 10 laps, chip away at that half a tenth every now and then, as we see Christian get another fantastic run going through the under the main straight here. Tony might help him, might a little bit, but what's he going to do?
Yeah, so we have a look like on his on the board at the moment to see what's how much pressure he's going to put on the back of Dan Hill, as he's had a big move under brakes to really close that gap up, but Dan's managed to get the power down and drive away a little bit coming down into the turns 2, 3 and 4 complex down coming up the back straight.
Yeah, it's one of those tracks where if you can, especially coming from personal experience, if you're not the best braker in the world, all you got to focus on, if you're in Dan's position, all you have to focus on is how can I get the power down and I get a good run out of the corner. If you can get a good run out of the corner, then you're safe for a lot of the track around here. It takes an exceptionally good move from someone, and to be fair, Christian is one of those people who are someone that can pull it off to get past you. Because even going into this section of the track, you have to be 120% committed to be able to get it done. Or if you're a Dan, if you can just hold him off, get a good run, just hold him off and get a good run, you're going to survive. And as we can see, Dan's just holding off Christian.
Yeah, definitely right. And, that's major around here because, as you mentioned, we will keep talking about over the night, is there is not a whole lot of opportunities to overtake.
Yeah, so you have sort of turn 1, turn 2 and 3 through here, turn 4 not really, 2 and 3 you have to be mega committed. It takes the other guy to have a mistake basically, but even if you're going along the back straight here, it's so long that if you get a good enough run, you can't really pass going into the down. It's just, you run out of road way too quickly. It's one of those tracks that, yeah, you have to get it done before the corner.
Yeah, so I'm just back with Darren Goosey here, who looks to be in the lead of a massive train of cars behind him. So I think looking at my timing, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 cars in this train.
Wow.
All within about a second of each other. So this could really start to spice things up in this little battle pack here. Well, I wouldn't say little battle pack, I'd say quite a big battle pack here.
Basically an entire field battle pack, essentially. depending on what category you run.
Yeah, exactly right. So we'll have to keep an eye on this because I think it's going to. We look back down the main straight there. There's just a train of cars as they all come down into turn 1.
As Darren's going into turn 1, there's still cars that are essentially at the pit exit line.
Yeah, so this bit of a battle here could really start to spice things up. As I might look at throwing the track map up there and see how far away the leaders are based on this battle pack here. So yeah, let's see if we can find them here.
So we have got Gambolt coming onto the straight, just going past start finish line now, and we're just under half a track away, and we're in 16th place. So it puts a little bit of a perspective on how easy it is to fall slightly behind, but in relation to a track time and your percentage away from the leaders around the track, it's a long way back if you look at the distance here, but the boys really aren't that much slower at all.
No, definitely right. As once again this train comes down, looking at even the trap map, you just look at all the cars that are coming down the start finish straight. And it's interesting to see. So every one of those cars has a different line coming into turn 1. Now, I know my personal preference for the line is to go out to the fence on the right and try and angle my way all the way to the apex, whereas a lot of these cars are trying to go straight and then turn hard. So, be interesting to see how some of these guys pull this off towards the end of the race.
Yeah, there's a number of different ways that you can take different parts of this track around here. Like, yeah, turn 1, for example, there's a lot of different lines and a few different ways that you can approach it, but through here, through Dandenong, a lot of the guys take a very, very similar line. It's nearly identical for all of them going through there. But again, going into this last section of the track, there's a few. Some take a little more curve on the first one and a little less on the second. Some are the other way around, where they'll take a nice smooth entry onto the first and a lot of the second. But it's one of those things where it's sort of a little bit of a potato as you're making your way through around here. And yeah, again, before we know it, we're back at turn 1.
Yeah, 100% correct. We're definitely pushing on with this race.
There's a few of the boys here. Yeah, Darren Goosey under a huge amount of pressure there from Jason in the background. But yeah, it's just massive. Massive this freight train here. Travis Hunt, who's just ahead of all these boys, he must be looking at his mirror every now and then, going, "Whoa!" I don't want to make a mistake, because looks like there's a high amount of pressure on all those guys back there. Yeah, they're all seeming to sort themselves out quite a lot, but if we just quickly touch back in towards the front for a second there, we got Gamble. Even though we got ahead of Greg before through a mistake that Greg made, which is a rare mistake, he's pulled himself out to a very commanding lead here at the moment. He's 1.1, 1.2 seconds roughly ahead of Greg, so this section of the track is probably the most where Greg will be able to pull back into the toe a little bit through the start finish straight, but if you click through each opposite end of the track, the slipstream effect that you get around here is almost null and void. It's a very interesting one, but it's good to see that Scott's pulled himself out to a very commanding lead, taking full opportunity of the race around here at the moment, and full opportunity of being able to get into the lead plus a little bit of gap. So Greg just behind though, not doing anything different compared to normal. He's sort of, yes, he had that one round mistake, but he's back into a little bit of a rhythm and routine, doing what he can. And as we jump onto the gyro for a second, it's not that far ahead. So when you put it from this point of view, 1 second around here, still looks very close and very, very doable to say the least. So entering onto the back straight, this is part of the track where you finally get a little bit of a breather, to say the least, and something where you can chill out a little bit. But before you know it, back onto it, through downshifting through the gears, trying not to lock up in the Dandenong itself. It's a very, very tricky part of the track itself, but Might jump on board actually for a second here with Greg for a lap around this 60 odd second track. So we see him shape up very nicely going on into here. We'll just sit back and listen for a minute and see how he goes.
Greg's doing a fantastic job here. He's doing everything he's asked, and a few times when I've actually spoken to Greg, he doesn't like fuel saving. So hopefully, being in Scott's tow here, he is taking some of that fuel off the car and managing to maintain that distance to Scott of about a second, which keeps him in the draft.
Yeah, exactly. And even in the lap that we coincidentally jumped on board with him there, he's managed to pull in 0.15 of a second on that last lap. So he's doing a good job at just head down, bum up, chase the car in front. And from his point of view, and I've had similar chats with him as well, and the fact that he doesn't like fuel saving, if you're behind someone and still pushing so hard, it might be one of those things where, yeah, as we see him come into the first round of pit stops, he might be able to get away with closing that gap even more by being able to save a litre or two here or there, and trying to catch Scott in front.
What's the thing interesting that Steve just brought up is that they should be all starting to do their pit stops around about now, so we might start to see some of these cars enter the lane thereabouts. And I think, what is the fuel limit for this race? So 80% starting fuel, 80 litres starting fuel, 80% starting. So yeah, well, my fuel figures might be incorrect. I did sneak into the SSR garage to have a look. So what fuel figures did you have for this particular race?
So based off of a NATO lead foot factor that we have around here, well, I was actually at roughly 2.5 litres per lap, and that's at no fuel saving, just trying to keep the car on the track. So at about 2.5 litres per lap, that would, you know, approximately get me 44 laps on a 111 litre full tank of fuel.
Yeah, so these guys will be definitely looking to stop very, very shortly, as Scott McCune's had a bit of an incident here, so we might use the Kumho Tyres replay to jump on board and see what's happening with Scott McCune in the 77 machine. So that's very unfortunate for Scott. Looks like he's done it all on his own, just managed to get the rear a little unsettled as they come down into turns 2 and 3, and has managed to keep it out of the wall, but that's very unfortunate for Scott, because Scott was doing a fantastic job. As once again, these cars are still going around, so be interesting to know this week what's actually happened to the setup of this car, because as Steve actually calculated wrong. What are you doing to us, Nath? You're giving us the wrong figures.
Yeah, look, there's a reason why Excel is my best friend and not my memory, because if my memory was in charge of a lot of my own racing, we'd be going from bad to worse to terrible. So it's a crew chief or any other help is a huge plus when I'm racing, to say the least.
Yeah, so you're roughly about right there, Steve. I jumped into the SSI garage before, and it's about 2.5 a lap these boys are managing to burn, so I'll let you crunch some numbers and come back with some figures.
So here we go. This is a challenge for Steve. Can you crunch the numbers within 1 lap of Sandown? So you have 67 seconds between now and then to have the numbers ready for us, Steve.
Yeah, definitely right. As we once again, this battle between Dave Kirby and Peter Vanderkraan has been going on for quite a few laps now, and Peter Vanderkraan's one of those guys that we keep talking about that has somehow manages to save fuel like it's going out of fashion. Like he must have a huge drop tank in that thing, because every week he's always 1 or 2 laps longer than everybody else.
Like, the trucks that are certainly a slipstream favourite slash very easy to fuel save track, I could understand that. Tracks around here that really don't have that much opportunity, I mean, I'm bamboozled every week, but I'm particularly bamboozled if you manage to go 1 extra lap around here compared to others.
Yeah, definitely right. So jumping on with Jason Fewens, who's currently batting with Rick Viger in front and then Stuart Hall behind. It does look like Stuart has got a bit of damage on that Commodore there, and there's also Jason Fewens on the left-hand side. So there has been a bit of contact made between these guys, but so far so good. The race has been very, very clean. We've only had that one safety car, and that was because of a very unfortunate incident where the car got stuck in the Armco.
Yeah, it's still one of those downfalls of iRacing itself, and it's certainly not good to see. But watching these two here, it's certainly they're having a bit of a look. They're having a big old dive bomb. You've got done heaps of room between the two of them.
Well, that's very unfortunate for Jason, because he's been squeezed on the outside there, and he's not going to get the drive down that he needed, which has allowed the 49 car Stuart Hall to actually overtake him coming down to the start finish line.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jason's doing a very good job tonight as well. Up 15 positions compared to where he started the race.
Yeah,
Huge effort to say the least.
I think Jason was actually one of those cars that started at the rear of the grid, which I think we just missed, so I do apologise, Jason, from the Banner Alliance Racing team in the 067 Commodore. But he's done a fantastic job being up 15 positions. It looks like Adam Simpson's had a bit of another incident, so we might just go back and use the replay to have a look at that. So let's see what's happened with Adam Simpson. Oh, he's had an unlucky spin coming into turn 4, and this is another one of those corners that is very, very tricky under power.
Yeah.
And it now looks like he's got himself stuck in the middle of the track as he's trying to get a flick spin done. And once you get caught like this, you've just got to sit there and wait for the freight train of cars to go past, which has cost him a lot of time in a lot of positions. So that's very unfortunate for Adam, after having that incident early on, getting stuck in the Armco, and now hitting the nose into the wall of that the barrier again. So hopefully he can gain some spots, and after a pit stop, sort something out, and we'll go from there.
If it's any consolation, Adam, when you're watching it back, it's a very, very nice flick spin there. As we're starting to see our first cars coming to the pits here.
Yeah, definitely. So the car down the bottom right hand screen, we actually see the cars have now starting to take advantage of that pit window, and more cars will start to come in over the next few laps. So I might leave that little jump down the bottom right there, so we can actually have a look and see what comes of it.
I reckon it'll be a good one to say the least, but to just touch in with our leaders again as we're getting close to this first pit stop side of the race, Greg is getting marginally closer every single lap, but he's half the gap compared to when we checked in before between him and Scott. This is really starting to heat up, as Greg might actually be able to get the jump on Scott, dare I say it, for coming into the first round of pit stops with a little bit of fuel saving.
Well, Steve's just come through with some stats, and he said, okay, lap 32 is going to be the first stop to start doing the refuel. So we'll see how good your numbers are, Steve, because this is lap 32 now. So if these cars start to drive in the pit lane, you're going to be pretty spot on with the money, which it looks like they're about to. There goes Scott Gamble and Greg Favell. So
I reckon Steve's cheating on us and sitting on the inside of the pit wall here.
Well, an interesting thing is Michael Taylor-Ansich and Mark Duggan have managed to go an extra lap. So be interested to see how this one plays out, because I think the undercut here is going to work quite effectively because of the tyre usage and the tyre wear. So more and more of these cars are starting to come to the pit lane.
Yeah, the amount that you're able to save around here as well. We see Doug's getting a huge slide coming out there. But to be fair, out of all the people that you say on this grid to go an extra lap compared to others, these two, Michael Taliangic and Mark Duggan, I reckon they'd be my two favourites to go longer on a tank of fuel than any.
That's right, we've also got Christian Smart, Simon Heddersheed, Scott McCune, Darren Goosey, Peter Vanderkran once again, David Kirby, and Rick Viger have all stayed out for that extra lap. But Chad Viger will be actually the effective leader of this race because he started on pit night. He did pit on lap 3 and has managed to take on a bit more fuel. So be interested to see when Chad decides to dive, because at this point in time, Chad will be the effective leader of the race from John King.
Yeah, it's it's, I guess there's two ways of looking at it right now. Do you pit the same time as everyone else to minimise your pit stop time, but try and gain what you can to equalise early, or do you do the same pit stop time as everyone else? Oh, there's a little bit of commotion going on there in the background.
Yeah, so it looks like David Kirby's had a bit of an incident, and he has managed to get going, but we've had a couple of cars that have had a crash, so we might use the replay to jump back and have a look at that real quick. So Jason Fewens has had a bit of an incident, and then car number 49 has come through and unfortunately made contact with Jason there. So hopefully these cars can get going without causing too much of an incident.
Yeah, seem to get going there. They're both seemed like a little bit of a Swiss cheese effect there that happened to both the boys, but they seem to be going again and not too much damage hopefully. So
have a quick look what happened to Dave Kirby as he's coming down to the back, very fast section downhill. And I think he may have done the same thing that happened to Michael Schroeder earlier, where he's just clipped that inside curb, and unfortunately the car's just driven straight on into the sand trap, and he's done a fantastic job to manage to keep it off the wall, because that is a very fast part of the track. So
oh yeah, and that just helps prove your point there. It's so easy to make. Like if you are a tyre width, which is, I can't even think of the percentages right now. Probably what, 20%, 15% of the actual total car width out of alignment, and you've made a mistake and you're that far off the track. So these boys are operating within very fine tolerances, to say the least.
Well, as we've just seen the leaders come back past now, so Chad Viger is actually currently the effective leader of this race, having stopped on lap 3, followed up by Dave Kirby in the Fisher Motorsport, who hasn't done a pit stop at this point in time. So I'm not sure where Dave's still in that field, but we might have a chat to him at some point. And then Scott Gamble and Greg Favell, so these two have come out right behind each other with Ken Ladder. So the big winner here is Ken Ladder has actually pushed right onto the back of this battle now. So before the pit stop, I believe there was a gap of about 5 seconds from Ken Ladder to these boys, and now he's right on the back of Greg Favell with Taliangic in tow. As they come into the Dandenong section now.
This is a mega effort from Kenneth Ladder to be able to jump back on the back of this battle pack here at the moment. So it's, I reckon, like, if I can hopefully avoid a commentator's curse, I reckon he's going to be in a hot shot tonight to push with these boys and knock on their door going, hey guys, I'm right here.
Yeah, definitely right. Ken's not one of those sort of guys that you do want to have behind you. Very experienced racer in this category and also in Scops, so be interested to see what happens as he starts to push on with these boys.
Yeah, and it's we're lap 36 of 97, so it's again back to the whole mental game and the mind game side of it. Is do you, if you can, do you try and push on with these boys now and sort of show off some of that pace and make them scared and hopefully force them into a mistake, or do you just sort of happily sit back, take what fuel saving you can around here? Because if 2.5 litres per lap, like 0.1, 0.2 litres that you can save sitting behind a car over a long stint might be good, but shorter stint mightn't fall in your favour. Like, when do you pull that trigger and start knocking on the back bumper and the rear wing of all of it? So very tricky.
Yeah, exactly right. Might have to back down through the field as we can see a couple of cars are now under battle with Steve Kennedy. getting pressured by Damien Cairns in the 88 Commodore from Type Esports. And he appears to be pushing on and applying a little bit of pressure to Simon Heddershede in front in position number 12. Then you've got a bit of another pack behind that, which is, I believe, the pack of Michael Schroeder, Robert Crisdale and Jamie McKnight, the People's Champ there. So there's a lot of these little packs as we look at the track map. The track map's very, very busy now, as it looks like Adam Simpson's had another problem. He seems to be stationary on the back straight again in that same spot, so hopefully he hasn't got the car stuck or had an engine blow. As we're about to come past him on now onto the main straight. Oh no, sorry, the back straight.
To have an engine blow around here certainly isn't an unheard of thing to happen. And yeah, he's pointing the wrong way there. Might quickly check in with him just for 1 second, just to see what the go is. And that's not ideal, to say the least.
That is definitely not a spot you want to actually get stuck in, because with these cars coming down the straight like that, there is not a lot of room. With the field spread out as far as it is, he has managed to regather it. That's a very unfortunate spot for him to be in.
It's got it going though, although he's got the engine cooling spec going on at the moment. But yeah, to be fair, if you're stuck in that position, to wait, be patient and wait that long to be able to get back onto it. All respect to him from that point of view.
That's a very unfortunate camera that he's got himself stuck in there. So I might try and do that again for everyone at home. We'll try and see if we can get a better camera and see what's happened with Adam Simpson there. So it looks like he's had a bit of a spin, and he's actually decided to try and reverse it down the track and get it into a position where he may be able to get a bit of grip to try and start that around. So we'll see if this one happened to shows what's happened, where he's come in the corner, come onto turn 4 onto the back straight. He's gassed it up, and then I'm very unfortunate there to hit that grass on the left hand side.
Yeah.
So that is very, very unfortunate for Adam there. So hopefully he can recover and keep moving on.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see, but yeah, like we were saying earlier, there's a few spots around here. There's actually a lot of spots around here that it's very, very easy to make a mistake, and very hard to be able to complete a good lap around here. So, especially for 300 kilometers. So, to make a mistake and find yourself in the wrong direction or off the track is not ideal, but to have the smarts to be able to just roll back until he got onto the bit of the bitumen on the back straight kink there, it was a good bit of play from him there.
Yeah, definitely right. Good avoidance there. Make sure he can get back onto the concrete and get a bit of grip to flick that car around, because it's very, very hard to try and do any sort of flick spin on this track, as we know.
But we've certainly tightened up at the front here, as Scott and Greg are within touching distance, to say the least, of one another.
Yeah, definitely right. As Steve has just mentioned, a very, very valid point here. So incident points are going to be very, very crucial around this track too. As the cars will start to push up and start to take some on board. So we still have a lot of cars out there that do not have a single incident point. But then we have cars down the bottom which have, unfortunately, some have already gone and served drive-through penalties because of the incident points for this lap, or for this race.
Yeah, because we're on lap 40 of 97, so we're not even halfway into it yet. So if some of the boys have pushed on hard early and used up some of those incident points to help gain some track position, they're really going to be on the back foot entering into the second half of this race. So it's certainly a very valid point you brought up there, Stephen, to say the least.
It looks like Adam Simpson has parked the car up for the night, so that's very unfortunate for him.
Oh.
I think so. He has parked that Mustang for this evening, so hopefully we see him back better and be here next week. As it looks like this battle pack at the front here has now compressed right up with Scott Gamble, Greg Bell and Kenneth Flatter all right under each other's wings. What are you doing this situation, Nathan? Do you happily sit behind Scott and try and save some fuel for the next stop, or do you try and apply some pressure and make the move?
Well, I'd almost, when in doubt, take the cheeky approach. I would try to be all over Scott as much as possible, but during a solid 90% of these straights, I would sit behind him as much as you could. Like, maybe poke the nose just before the braking zone, like, or even during the braking zone. Half a car width difference compared to your normal line, but because you're attacking him, by the time he gets to the corner, if you can take your normal line, it's just enough to make him look in the rear mirror when he doesn't want to. Make him look in the rear mirror when he's hitting all of those bumps and taking all of his concentration from those bumps to, holy moly, what's the bloke behind going to do? Like, if you can just do a little bit every now and then, just to keep him on his toes, and then when he thinks he's safe because you're being a bit repetitive, you can go one of two ways. You can either sit behind and wait for that next pit stop, or as soon as he thinks he's got it on you, that's then when you make the ultimate dive bomb and get ahead just before the pit stop. So I think I'd sit behind for about half to 3/4 of my stint, and then when I knew I was getting within 5 to 10 laps of my stint, I'd probably go for it.
Yeah, I'm very much the same. I would try and pick one of those times where I'd actually stay behind and try and save as much fuel as I can. It's going to be one of those races where I think with these guys battling as fast as they are at the front, their lap times are all within 1/10 of each other, as Greg looks to have a bit of a look. I think these guys, the smart move is to stay behind and try and save some fuel and use that to your advantage at these pit stops, because the more fuel you can save, the less time stationary you have to be.
Yeah, exactly. As we've pretty well determined that tonight is going to be one of those two-stop sort of races. And to tangent for a second, I reckon if we look at what Mr. Kenneth Latta and Michael Taliangic are doing at the moment, I think both of these boys are actually in the hot seat to be able to do what they do best, do that little bit of fuel saving, but whilst they're doing the fuel saving, being able to potentially nick a spot or two during the pit stops.
Yeah, definitely right. So we might jump back down through the field and have a look at some other battles that are going on. That's between Anthony Visma and Jeff Thomas at the moment. So these guys have been just watching their timing, and they've been sitting like this for the last 4 or 5 laps with not much gap between them, staying very, very close. So these guys are doing another great job. And as we go further down to Damien Cairns, another one of the Type N Esports cars, they are in battles everywhere at the moment with Stephen Kennedy in that Win M1 car, having another battle down the back here for positions 12 and 13.
Yeah, certainly a lot of these boys in Split 1, like we go on, especially on AR, on some of the Friday night streams that we do there, where a lot of the boys are trying to push hard to get into Split 1 and join all of this, but a lot of these boys in Split 1, to be fair, like, they're super clean to try and get as many benefits as they can from having clean races and minimal incident points. They're also trying to prove why they are Split 1 drivers. So there's also a lot of the boys in Split 2 and 3 certainly play for the sheep stations and play for keeps to prove why they should be there. But a lot of these boys here are also proving why they're the best to stay in Split 1.
Yeah, definitely right. I couldn't say it any better. These guys are always here, very consistent, pushing hard like they are week in, week out. And I think we're nearly rounding up the halfway mark. I think Nathan and myself might just go and get a quick drink break as we thank some of our sponsors. That would be Kumho and Logitech G. We'll be back with you shortly as we throw to a quick ad.
The ever-changing weather around the world. Ever-diverse terrain and roads across the world. With Kumho Tyre that has conquered all. There is no road you cannot go. Go with Kumho. Kumho Tyre.
as we welcome you back, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, big shout out to our sponsors, and that's Kumho Tyres for our naming sponsors this season. Logitech G, Quantum Solutions, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, and we also have now on board Player One Sim Gear. So welcome to those guys. If you need any sort of sim racing gloves or boots, I believe you can head over to their website, which is P1 Sim Gear, and grab some information off them. Definitely a big thank you for those guys to come on board for this season.
Yeah, it's always fantastic to see new people jumping on board, and yeah, it shows how much, how many people and how much publicity there is for our V8 bets on a Thursday and Friday nights between Split 2 and Split 3 as well. So over 100 drivers are racing tonight. It's a fantastic thing to see. But thank you to all the sponsors for jumping on board, and for anyone that's anyone new to the stream or anyone that hasn't quite done it yet, make sure you jump on board and like the Facebook page and jump onto and subscribe to the Facebook stream as well. So sorry, to the YouTube stream, and subscribe there. So it helps get the name out, and it helps get V8 bets to become a more popular thing, even more popular than what it already is.
Yeah, definitely right. I couldn't say it any better myself. These guys definitely appreciate it. That's all I can say.
And for all the drivers as well, knowing that whichever split they're in, the fact that they're in the bets and knowing that bets is getting so well publicised and the bets is becoming such a hard series to be a part of, especially towards the pointy end, it just provides even more reward for all of them. And another bit as well, knowing that all of them are racing currently on the fixed setup between all the splits, it's it's one where all three splits are currently running on this van's setup, and his input and time that he puts into it as well is Mr. Jamie McKnight. He always, every week, without fail, manages to provide a setup for all the boys to be able to drive on, listens to all their inputs, tries to make it as universal as possible, which is a very, very hard thing to do. So yeah, big shout out to Jamie as well for being able to help everyone and make the racing as fair and clean as possible.
Yeah, definitely right. You've hit the nail on the head there. Jamie's been one of those drivers that's been in the series from day dot, and he puts a lot of time and effort into this series with those setups, and a big shout out to him for also coming on board as one of the sponsors for the Parramatta Isuzu Ute. Without these guys, the series wouldn't be what it is today, and a big credit to all these guys. 80 drivers at the moment. I just went through and had a quick count. We've got 84 drivers across 3 splits.
Wow.
So for the boys to be able to do that week in, week out is absolutely huge.
Yeah, exactly. Like a few of them, we understand that, you know, life commitments sort of pop in the way, or some of them are out of town every now and then, here and there, but it's one of those ones where it's over 90% of the time we nearly have full grids throughout all 3 splits. So yeah, certainly it's nice to see that where bets is at and how much everyone puts into it, but also how friendly everyone is in the background too, throughout weekly practices and throughout all the different sessions too.
Yeah, definitely right. We jump back on board with our leaders here, with Scott Gamble still leading this train of a couple of cars, with Greg Favell, Kenneth Lader, Michael Taliantich, and Mark Duggan. As Greg's had a bit of a moment there, as I believe he's clipped that inside curb, and it's now pushed him into the wall on the right hand side, which is very easy to do. I suffered the same fate a couple of times. And once you hit that grass on the right hand side with your wheels, it's incredibly hard to get it back.
Certainly, and one of the bits I'm very curious about after having that impact on the wall is how straight is his wheel after that, because he's applying huge pressure on Kenneth Lader here. He's certainly showing his intentions to try and get up to where he was, but he's going to want to go a little bit careful here, because if he pushes too hard too soon, he could lose more spots if he doesn't sort of sit back, chill out for a lap or two. He mightn't realise what damage he has or hasn't got, and he could hurt himself even more.
Definitely right. And that's actually giving Scott Gamble a chance to drive away now. So Scott Gamble now has a 1.5 second lead over Kenneth Lader, with Ken having a big moment there coming across the on the exit of turn 1 with that curb being a lot higher, and having that that car sideways has now cost him a bit more time. So we might go back and have a look and see what's happened to Greg in a minute here. But Stuart Hall in the meantime has had a bit of an incident. He did unfortunately crash the car, so we'll go and use the Kumho Tyres replay to have a look. So, very unfortunate there for Stu. That turn 4 where it comes off camber a little bit, there's a bit of a dip on the right hand side there.
Well, then just the what do. Did a good job to keep it off of it, and then a little kiss of the wall to remind him that he was there. But it didn't grab hold of it. He did a very good job at staying out of everyone's way.
Yeah, definitely right. That could be another moment where he had a major problem where the car did get stuck in the Armco, because we do see that a lot. So we might jump on board with Greg Favell and see what happened that incident with Scott Gamble. So looks like we've come through turn 1 and 2 here, and coming down to turn 2 and 3. And Scott got a bit of a bad run with Greg taking a little bit more of that inside curb, and as you mentioned, once you hit that inside curb, the car completely just pushes on, and he has made contact with that wall, and hopefully he hasn't suffered too much damage to that Commodore there.
Yeah, looking at his lap times at the moment, he seems to be doing quite well at being able to. He has been passed by Michael Taliengi, so I don't know if it was because he was getting a bit too eager and trying to push forward, but he's hurting a little bit, I reckon, but he's not hurting too much compared to that sort of an impact. So I don't know if he's just gone into full fuel saving mode just to try and get that time back, or if if he is actually struggling a little bit, and possibly if he is struggling, Greg might be one of the first to hit the pump.
Yeah, definitely right. He might try and go early and try and get that repair done, because it does look like the car is down on straight line speed. So there's been an incident with Anthony Bismo, and there's a car off the side there, which I believe is one of the Fishy Motorsports cars of possibly Dave Kirby in the 307 Commodore. So we'll go back and have a look at that in a second, but just want to have a quick look here at what's actually happened to Anthony Bismar in the Type N Esports Commodore. So, once again, very, very well done by Anthony there to have a bit of a half spin there, coming down into Dandenong, which has clipped that inside corner and has now given the position up to Christian Smart for P8 and 9. The replay's getting a bit of a workout tonight, so we'll jump on board and see what happened with Greg Favell here as they're battling hard down into turn 1 by the looks of it. So looks like Taliensi's got a really good run coming out of the final corner onto the main straight and has made a pass on the inside into turn 1.
Nice and clean from both boys there.
Yeah, look, that's it. They both left each other a lot of room, and I think Greg had a bit of a moment there where the car getting a little bit sideways under brakes, and it's only cost him a little bit of time, so hopefully he can start really pushing on and drive back with, see if he can get his position back.
Yeah, the Kumho Tyres replays certainly got a good workout tonight, but I mean, out of all the tracks we've been to, we certainly expect Sandown to be one of the ones where they where it does get a good workout.
Yeah, definitely right. We might jump on board and see what happened to Dave Kirby when we saw him sitting off in the grass on the left hand side there out of turn 1. So hopefully nothing too major. It looks like he sort of managed to get the car gathered up and straight again. So that's very unfortunate for Dave there. Making contact, I believe, with Rick Viger into turn 1. Got the car a little bit unsettled on the brakes, and then has had a spin and got himself on the grass, which it looks like he's using that Chickadee style Commodore there to try and mow some of that grass, and then hopefully safely rejoins and gets the car going again, which it looks like he has done very well.
Apart from himself, looks like Jim's mowing might be the only other people that aren't too happy with grass cutting like that.
Yeah, definitely right. But they might be taking Jim's out of the business here. So let's jump over to Michael Taliensic now. So with these three cars battling very, very hard here, it's actually given Scott Gamble a chance to drive away a bit. So now he's got almost a 2.5 second gap on Michael Taliensic, who has Kenneth Latta right on his tail under his rear wing. So as we come down to Dandenong, you can see there Kenneth overshoots the corner a little bit, which has now cost him a little bit of time, with that car just understeering a fraction onto the ripple strip there. So once again, we've got these great camera angles of these cars with the suspension working really, really hard, and watching those brakes light up nice and red hot.
Certainly, there's a little bit of the gap now between the two of them, but yeah, it's certainly a very, very tough track on all of the equipment. Like, it's spectacular to watch, but yeah, it's one of those ones where, they, as we see him again launching over the curves here, and how well does he get powered out? A little squirmy, first gear, second gear, third gear very quickly, but very well done overall. It's a, one of those tracks where it's hard on the gear, but spectacular to watch.
As it looks like there has been another accident with between Michael Schroeder and John Latham down into Dandenong again, so we'll go back and have a look at that in a second. Stephen, to answer your question, it appears though that Michael managed to get past Kenneth Latter, so we'll jump on board the replay and see if we can see what's happened here. So it appears coming down the back straight before the downhill section, Michael's just got a fantastic run, and he's managed to make the move well and truly before the chicane, sorry, the downhill section, which has allowed these cars to settle properly and take their positions. So very well done there by these two boys to allow each other enough room to come down there and make that pass stick.
Yeah, all of them seem to be, another car holding off to the side there. And yeah, we're seeing a few lap cars sort of get caught up in the mix, which is something we talked about a little bit earlier, but it's interesting watching a lot of the boys sort of sit back, and they're not necessarily fighting for the position too hard. Like, they all understand that there might be someone slightly quicker or slightly slower than them. They're all kind of doing their own thing.
Well, that's exactly right, as we've now hit that halfway part of the race. So at this point in time, these guys have driven about 150 kilometres of this track, which is halfway to our 300 kilometre race. So I think a bit of fatigue will set in at this point, with these guys now really starting to struggle. I know when we do the Sandown 500, it's 161 laps of this track, so these guys are nearly doing an entire enduro that usually has two drivers in it on their own tonight.
Yes, it's probably about this time of the race when, in that Sandown 500, depending on what strategy you're running, you'd be thinking about, driver changes and all this and that. But yeah, for these boys, they've done the first stint. They're most of the way through the second stint, but they're only hitting the point that's ramping up to the final stage of the race. They put in all this effort, only to have to put in even more, plus extra again.
Yeah, definitely right. We might jump on back and forth and see what happened with John Latham and Michael Schroeder again, coming down to Dandenong. Oh, so it looks like Schroeder's had a big moment there coming across into Dandenong and has managed to clip that curb, and unfortunately John Latham had nowhere to go, which is very unfortunate for John, because if we jump back on board, we'll try and get the replay of his on-board cockpit. He does not have a lot of time to attempt to try and make that move once it has happened, so we'll jump on board with John as we come down into this to see what actually happened here. Is it looks like Michael's just gone a bit wide, caught that curb on the right hand side, which has put him off, and then has just left John absolutely nowhere to go, and unfortunately contact was made, and that's very unfortunate for John, because it looks like he's waited to do the redress with Michael Schroeder there, but I think it since has shown that he has now parked the car up.
Yeah, it's not good to say the least, but yeah, it's still one of those things where it's good where the boys, especially at this split one level, who are trying to prove why they should be the quickest and best drivers out of all the bets, it's good to see that they're still showing enough respect from one another to be able to try to do the best they can to readdress if they know they've made a mistake, or if something unforeseen has happened and they feel like they've made a mistake, even though not necessarily their fault.
Yeah, definitely right. So we're now at that point where we're about 37 laps to the end of the race, and I think Steve mentioned before that the second stop of these cars is going to be anywhere between around lap 67. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what plays out here, because the car has just come into the pit lane now to do their stop, and I'm not sure whether they'll be able to make it home. But if the safety car does happen to come out, that car may be in a very, very good position to make it home from here.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where, yeah, it's kind of, do you risk it for the biscuit? And it's seen how conservative and good and all that the boys have been on, but if you're that one man, and we've seen it in one of the odd sprint race formats where we saw Michael Kellyanne went from way down in the field to be able to come back, fuel save, and do the whole risk it for a biscuit strategy, and pulled it off to win one of the race, second place and a win. So if you do decide to risk it, because at the end of the day it's one of those ones where around here it's highly likely that a safety car could happen, and as we're only getting to the riskier stage of the race, like, yeah, sure, we're 2/3 of the way through it, 1/3 of the race to go. Now, arguably, apart from the first 5 laps of the race, is when the safety car is most likely to come out.
Yeah, definitely not. We don't really want to send safety car, because safety cars usually breed safety cars. So as I chuck another little battle up that's happening down in the bottom right hand corner here, and that's the cars of Darren Goosey, Dean Flavelle, and I believe that's car number 14 in front of that, so that's Jason Spriggs as well. So those guys down in position 17, 18 and 19 are all battling extremely hard along with the rest of the field.
Yes, heaps of 3-car battle pack going on. You almost don't know where, yeah, you don't know where you want to look. Jamie's under huge pressure at the moment, but he's trying to do his best to keep his eyes forward. As Scotty McCune might be able to pull off a pass here if he's patient enough. It doesn't get much closer than that.
Definitely not. Jamie's gonna get very, very tired of having that Hypersonic Racing Commodore with those bright green headlights sitting in his mirror for too long. So we'll have to see what happens there. Jamie might even let him go and try and save some fuel behind him, but he does have Stephen Kennedy in front to capitalise on some of those fuel savings, which Jamie can do very well.
He's one of his nicknames is known as the People's Champion and the People's Man, but he's also Mr. Fuel Saver. He's one of those men where we were going on about it a little bit earlier, that he can somehow magically pull off one extra lap compared to anyone else. He's one of those guys that can hold the pace plus save a litre or two more than anyone else. So I would really want to know what those tips and tricks are that he does, but it's one of those tricks that if he can pull it off and do it, he's the man that can do it.
What's exactly right is I might bring up the leaders back down here on the bottom right. Scott Gamble did have over nearly a 2.5 second lead on this race, but Michael Talianchis has now drawn that back into about a second. So as Jamie's now making a move on these cars in front here. So it looks like Steve Kennedy has had a bit of a moment there and just decided to let Jamie go, and that's now brought Stephen Kennedy and Scott McCune into a drag race down the start-finish straight here.
They have by it there, but how do these boys go into braking side by side, super close? Scotty's just got it done. Yeah,
it's very well done by these guys to allow them to actually have a good battle, as Scott Gamble has now managed to catch a whole bunch of pack of cars as Michael Talianchis has gone into the pit lane. So this could be that interesting strategy that I was just talking about a second ago. That Michael might be trying to go in now to get his last pit stops done with 33 laps to go. So they're right on that cusp of getting home on that full tank number. So Michael has decided to pit this lap and potentially take on the lap fuel. So it'll be interesting to see where he actually comes out, but Scott Gamble is now getting incredibly held up by all these cars, so it's turning into a bit of a cluster coming down the back of a bit of a gaggle my apologies, of cars coming down the back straight here with leaders mixing up with lap traffic.
Yeah, well, we loosely touched on it earlier. That, yeah, that lap traffic side of it, it's one where yeah, can play a huge factor into it. As yeah, we've seen another battle pack going on here at the moment. Ducking on in, Darren Goosey
Yeah, so
trying to make his way into it.
I think a lot of these cars are going to try and go for this strategy now of getting that pit stop done now. So you've got a couple more cars going in the lane, which is Jamie McKnight, Matt Vanderkraan, Darren Goosey, Matty Parker and Chad Viger have all decided to go into the pit lane. So moving back towards the front, we've now actually seen Kenneth Ladder and Greg Favell from position 2 and 3 dive into the pit lane as well to do that next critical stop.
Yeah, yeah, the race officials there don't look I don't think they're quite as excited as what we are about it all tonight. But that pit lane is getting a whole heap of action at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. As Luke has just jumped into the chat and said safety car in split 3 is almost going to classify for the race. So hopefully that's not true, Luke. Otherwise, John Van Ree is going to have a very busy, very busy drivers lounge on tomorrow night. As Greg Favell has now decided to come out of pit lane, he has used his fast repair to get a brand new Commodore. So that team has worked incredibly well to get that car looking mighty fine again. As Scott Gamble has now just jumped into the lane, so these cars are all now doing their final stops to get them home for the end of the race, taking on that full fuel, fresh tyres. So it'd be very interesting to see where these cars come out in relative when they actually have all done their stops and see what strategy works better.
Yeah, it's. I still do think that I agree with a lot of the talks and views of it, like we were saying earlier. I reckon the undercut will work very well around here, but if you're going to go to the other extreme of undercut versus overcut, it's one of those ones where if you can have good tyres for a couple more laps compared to the others as you go into the final stint of this race, the overcut might actually work in your favour if you're confident under brakes.
Yeah, definitely right. And as Scott Gamble has now just come out now back onto the main straight with Kenneth Ladder right behind him by the looks of it. So this will be very interesting to see what happens as this race progresses now. And Michael Taliancic is actually out in front.
Yeah.
So
I might eat my words here.
There's been a big change in the lead here. So Michael Taliancic is your effective race leader at this present, up in currently P5, with Travis Hunt in front of him, who does have to do another stop.
Oh, pulled it off too. Got it done. Wow. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference between new tyres and old tyres.
Yeah, 100% correct there. If we look at so Travis Hunt hasn't pitted from his first stop on lap 32, and then Michael's now pitted from lap 63. So that is the difference right there of what fresh rubber on these cars can show you. And just look at that gap now.
Yeah.
As Matt has jumped into the pit lane. And I believe he's actually hit the wall as he's trying to go into the pit lane. So
wow,
that's very unfortunate, as my timing's actually saying Greg Favell's had of an accident here. So we might jump on board and see what the replay says. Greg's unfortunately hit the wall. So
oh no.
We'll jump on the replay here and see what's actually happened. As Greg's parking the car up, so I'm definitely hoping here that
smoke from his motor.
Yeah, so it looks like the safety car has come out in track at this point in time.
Oh, here we go, huge pop.
And
oh no.
Greg has had an engine issue coming down the back straight, so that is very unfortunate. So I'm not really sure what's happened with Greg there. So I might see if I can try and find what's actually happened with Greg. So it looks like Greg's had a bit of a moment coming down into the turn 2 and 3 complex, and I'll go back and see if we can get that on board. And I did unfortunately say it that Greg has used his quick repair, so I believe that may be that may be Greg's race tonight. As we jump on board and see if I can find currently where our safety car is on track. As it's now just starting to come out the pit lane, so hopefully it can pick up leaders here in a very, very short period of time, and I'll see if I can go back and find the replay of what's actually happened to Greg, as my software is kind of playing up at this point in time.
Uncle Taliandis to the undercut king seems to be the biggest beneficiary at the moment. Yeah, Michael leading the race at the moment. The Quantum safety car is leading into the Dandenong section of the track, Dandenong Road section, sorry, should I say. Yeah, it's certainly a lot more organised compared to a lot of some of the other passes we've seen tonight in the other sections, as Greg is still parked up there, but it's good to see the Continent's car back out there, and it's a correct paint job. So the boys in the safety car there and race control have done a good job to get the car rewrapped in between the safety car now and what we had earlier tonight. Yeah, Michael's doing a good job leading the race so far as well. We'll have a quick look through the field of what we got the opportunity. So we got him there. We got Scott Gamble in second place at the moment, who, as we've seen, is not one to shy away from Sandown here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens throughout the night there. Third place, we've got Kenneth Latter, and then, surprise, surprise, knocking on the door of all of the boys is Mr. Mark Duggan, Duggo himself, in fourth place. So we'll see what he can do for the he was a big part of the race at the start, sort of went quiet throughout the middle, so we'll see what he can do in the final stint at the moment. Then in fifth we have Matt Van Der, so doing quite good at the moment. Appears to be a few lap cars in between he and the boys in front, so we'll see how this all pans itself out before we hit the restart. But Jeff Thomas is currently in sixth place. Christian Smart up 4 spots to be comfortably inside the top 10 in 7th place at the moment. Then we have Anthony Bismarck in 8th place, Dan Hall in 9th, and Simon Heritage closing out our top 10 at the moment.
Well, while we're going around safety car, I might try and bring up the incident that has happened with Greg, unfortunately, down into the Turn 1 complex here. So we'll see if I can do this. And as Greg's coming down the start straight, to his car, unfortunately, and at this point in time, I think he may have popped an engine as he's come down through the acceleration, or going down through the gears. Because once we come around the corner here onto the back straight, we definitely notice that the car has decided to slow right down here, and that's very unfortunate for Greg. So I think he's tried limping it back from this point, and it's been a game over moment for him, which is very, very sad to see. So I'm sure Greg will be kicking himself about that, but we'll see if we can get a chat from him and see what happened.
Yeah, if he's still around, it'll be good to hear what's happened throughout tonight, Greg. But I mean, it's one of those things where you don't really want to put in this much effort and done this much time and practice into a night like tonight. It's certainly not something you want to see. But top of the hill, popping might be a different story. May have been able to roll all the way back to his pit bay, but that part of the track, if he made it all the way back to his pit bay from there, it would have been very, very impressive, to say the least.
Yeah, 100% correct. It would have been absolutely fantastic if he had made it back from there, but unfortunately these supercars, sometimes they have an issue where they will limp home, and other times the engine goes and there's nothing you can do. So we've actually come back to live, Steve. We're currently going down the main straight with Michael Talianchis in the race lead, following the Quantum Solutions safety car, which I believe will pull away at the end of this lap. And that'll leave us a 27 lap sprint all the way to the end.
Well, we've done it once again. We've had a very, very entertaining lead up. Essentially a 2/3 slash 3/4 race distance qualifying effort. And going into the final sprint of the race, our pole position leader is Michael Taliangic. So it's a one of those fun situations where bring in a bit of fatigue. It'll be interesting to see who can deal with fatigue and who's good enough to push through it and get a good result at the end of tonight.
That's exactly right. And what's Michael's strategy here? So when does he go when we go back to racing green as the safety car is now pulling away from the field? So at what point does Michael try and hold the field up and restart this race with Scott Gamble and Kenneth Latta right behind him?
Well, I reckon you have two options. Either you go as soon as race control let you go and the boys know when the earliest point is to accelerate and when you can start pulling away, or you wait right until that final corner before you start pulling away and hope that everyone else behind is just that little bit behind where they're not affected by your slipstream. So it'll be interesting what Mick decides to do here.
Yeah, definitely right. As we I'll see if I can bring up a camera real quick of
Looks like it's gone. Going, yep, and away he goes. A very decent margin to the boys behind. Decent takeoff to say the least behind Scott, and Scott's very good at. He's one of those guys where it's very hard to actually pull away from this point of the race. So
yeah, definitely right. So as I mentioned, it's going to be a 27 lap sprint race all the way to the end now, and Michael got a fantastic jump over Scott, and as we can see, these four cars here, which is Michael Taliangic, Scott Gamble, Kenneth Latta and Mark Duggan, have all managed to sort of gap the rest of the field here. So I know I don't want to say it, but I hope that safety cars don't breed safety cars, because usually that's what happens around these sort of races, and especially being such a very, very tight track and cars being so close together. We definitely don't want to see that.
yeah, no, I 100% agree with you there. It's not something we want to see. Like, we want to see the boys be able to sort themselves out, as we can see on that track map there, that they're all very, very compact to say the least, but they're all seem to be doing a good job at settling into that single file, not doing the stereotypical safety cars, big safety cars, and hopefully we can see it's an all-out sprint battle towards the end, and hopefully we can see some fastest lap of the races being posted at the moment.
Yeah, definitely right. If you look at the, as you just mentioned, we do have Scott Gamble, who has set the fastest lap of the race with a 106.88. So that has chipped Michael Taliancic on a 106.91, as there appears to be a couple of cars having a major problem behind. Robert Crisdale looks like he's had a bit of a moment, and looks like Jason Spriggs as well is currently stuck, and it appears though he does have that car moving. So while these cars are starting to battle hard, we might jump back on board with the Kumho Tyres replay and have a look at some of these instances that have just happened. So starting with Michael Quain. Michael Quain has come off the track at down to Dandenong, so I think he was trying to move out of the way of a lot of cars as he came into Dandenong here, and the car may have got a little bit unsettled. He may have got a bit of a helping hand there, which he did from Simon Hedersheet, unfortunately. Has tapped the rear of his car and managed to make contact there, and we've had a
little bit of net code as well. I thought it was, well, I mean, at live motion pictures, it looks like there was a not quite enough of a gap, but there's a hole in the hole.
As we go on another board with another replay, as three cars are trying to go wide down into turn one. We know how this usually ends up, as there has been a major contact there between Jason Spriggs and one of the Fishy Motorsports cars. So that is very, very unfortunate for Jason. He was doing really well, and hopefully he can regather that up and try and get some of his positions back.
It's not quite what we mean by a sushi roll going on right there, but that's certainly one of the closest things to get to it.
Yeah, definitely right. And it's one of those things that you mentioned earlier, a really, really wide main straight with a 90-degree left-hand corner, and makes it very, very tight and interesting for these cars, to say the least.
Yeah, all these front three boys are doing very similar lap times, but the quickest out of the top three at the moment is actually Mike Taliandic. So, sorry, that's it's a lie right there as I'm looking at the wrong car. It was actually Kenneth Latta, who was 2 tenths quicker than Mike Taliandic and Scott Gamble. Scott and Mike look super close to say the least, but Kenneth is we were talking about it earlier. He was just sort of happily sitting back and waiting and seeing what was going to happen. But I'm still backing him to be the man, to be the mover and the shaker out of this top pack.
Yeah, definitely right. He's definitely got the potential and the speed to do it. While he's sitting back there, he just cursed him by getting a little bit of oversteer coming out of Dandenong. So I'm sure while these two battle in front, Ken will gain that spot up, which it looks like he has with Scott Gamble getting that car well and truly up on two wheels as we come through that last chicane section.
Whereas even with that moment there, he's still doing the same pace as the two in front of him. So I reckon Kenneth is in with a good shot here at the moment, but not to rule out the other boys in front. They're doing quite a good job to battle with one another, but also very, very quickly to touch on it, Mark Duggan. He's just been the bloke that's quietly sitting there, quietly doing his own thing all night long in the position that he qualified in. He could even Stephen Bradbury it at the moment.
Yeah, definitely right. You don't know what's going to happen here because we've got so many battles going on throughout the field at the moment, and he could potentially be on for a position here with this. If these guys out in front keep battling as hard as they are, all it takes is one slip up by one of them, and Mark can come through and clean up all those positions. So he's doing a fantastic job there in P4, just sticking with his train.
All it's going to take is one little mistake, the top three to battle that little bit more, and Mark can go from just happily sitting where he is to getting the podium glory that we all love and strive for, to say the least. So yeah, well, but to be fair, we still got a long way to go. We still got just over 20 laps to go here at the moment. So this final stint sprint race is not over, to say the least. So some of these boys are showing how quick they are with these newer greener tyres and the safety guard coming out and letting the tyres be all cool. But how are they going to go as the night rolls on?
Yeah, definitely right. As we come back to Dave Kirby in the 307 Fishy Motorsports Commodore, battling really, really hard here with Darren Goosey. So looks like he got a good run coming out of the turn 4 onto the back straight, and he looked like he's going to have a move. So it appears though he's going to try to put the car up on the inside, and hopefully these guys leave enough room and the move gets done as they still try and come down too wide with Dave Kirby hitting that inside corner. So he has done a fantastic job to get that car stopped from there, and I feel these guys are going to continue to battle quite hard for some time here.
Yeah, so roughly a five car battle train at the moment going on, but that's a good effort to get that inside curb, which we've seen so many blokes not do too well in. But he's really pulled away from his field at the moment. Like, look at that going in turn 1. Really underdone today.
Yeah, definitely right. Dave is a very, very competent racer in this league, and it was unfortunate to see him caught up in a couple of wheel incidents early on, which has caused him to drop back to where he is. So hopefully now with a bit of fresh air in front of him, he can push on extremely hard and try and make up some of those positions as we come to the closing line to this race.
I'm very curious on a side note to see how much he can push forward and try to join Travis Hunt, who's a man in front of him, to see if he can pull away from his battle back at home. Adam Parker, he's one man I haven't talked to too much about. Parks himself, he's had a very, very full night, to say the least. I've been watching most of his relatives all night, and yeah, he's been in the battle pack for time, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely right. Matty's done a great job. He's come up 8 positions from his starting position, so he's having a fantastic night. It looks like he's running a SpongeBob SquarePants helmet livery there, so it's very interesting to see. We don't usually get to see the helmets and what sort of liveries they have on them, and that's obviously one we should keep an eye on. It definitely has a sponge for one on there, so.
I wonder where Patrick is throughout the field.
Look, I'm sure if we spend enough time, I'm probably going to say someone out there is going to have Patrick Starfish as their helmet. As you look back, there's a complete train of cars here, of 8, 9 cars all in a row.
Huge amount of them going on here. Field pushing very hard. We got Chad Lewis running with no booth livery, but close all these boys are. Might actually have a favour. Using all of the curve as he can. Heaps of the first curve, not much of the second curve. How does his drive going into the out of the corner here? Will he try and do his best to get ahead of Rick Barger? Showing the nose. And mind games, parks back in. You want to go a little bit careful. A little bit wide. Oh,
Wow.
Very slow car going on here. It's certainly checked up a lot of the boys going on here at the moment.
Might try and jump on board the replay and see what's actually happened there with it looks like Darren Goosey was one of the cars involved in that bit of a incident there that's caused. Well, it's a little bit further back, so we'll have to see what's happened down the end of this pit straight here, because it looks like this is where it all sort of fell apart. These cars just kicking on have managed to sneak through. So at the moment we've got the Darren Crosby on the inside with the 186 Commodore on the outside. And look, there's been major contact made there, and maybe the bit of netcode that's forced that car to the right, and that's what we just saw a second ago with all those cars going left, right and centre in every direction.
So yeah, Jason Fewens certainly that way. Chad Lewis there. Not really the part of the track that you want to be passing on, but yeah, so just helps show how busy Sandown is in general. Doesn't matter where we're on lap 80, 97. And almost every lap we've been able to look somewhere and see how busy this place is.
As those boys jump back a little bit further behind these boys, and to Marty Hansen in that mobile 1 Commodore, in the 126 Commodore there, and got Robert Christdale and Chad Liger right up behind him there. So great to see Marty having a good run here, up in 24, so he's 8 positions up from his starting position. Great to see him back out there again, and hopefully see him towards the front and the pointy end in the couple of seasons to come.
Yeah, good seeing him now there. Who's that? That's someone playing it. What's happening now? Looks like one of the boys was pointing in the wrong direction for a second there.
Yeah, so my timing's actually saying Rick Vigar has had a bit of a mishap here, so we'll watch these boys into the turn 1 here real quick, and then we might try and jump on board the Kumho Tyres replay to see what's happened to Rick.
Certainly battling pursuit stations at the moment.
Yeah, 100% right. All of these cars are starting to get a little bit squirmy in that rear end. I know a lot of the boys were saying their setup was getting a little bit taily towards the end of a stint on tyres, so it'll be interesting to see how these guys pull it out from here as we might jump on board using the Kumho Tyres replay. So oh no.
Go wrong.
That's very unfortunate for Rick, and that's a very tricky corner as well. Coming out of there onto that ripple strip. Once again, it's a bit like coming on the back straight. The tyre dips into that groove, and you go around as we see another car that has just had a spin. I think that's a 727 of, I believe, Chad Lewis has had a spin as well. So not really sure what's happened there. So I might try and go back and see what's unfortunately happened to Chad Lewis there, and I'll try and catch that in a second for you.
Yes, all the boys are pushing very, very hard, to say the least, going into this the final stint of the race. So but we've just touched back in with the boys up front. Tyre is still leading this race. So the fuel saver himself from Indianapolis is showing that whilst he can fuel save, he can also still push on pretty hard to mix it up with the boys up front.
Yeah, definitely right. And I've just gone back and had a look at what happened to Chad Lewis there, and he's done the exact same thing Rick Viger did, just caught that bump on the outside into the final turn and spun the car himself, but managed to keep it off the wall and keep it going straight, so didn't lose too much time.
That's good. Sorry, that's not so good from his point of view, but it's at least if you make a mistake like that at this point in the race, you know that you're pushing every single little bit out of the car to do the best you can. You're putting it all on the line for that risk versus reward side of it that we touched on earlier. See Jeff Thomas sliding onto it at the moment, still comfortably in the top 10, but it'll be nice for him to be able to keep pushing on to do his best to get a hold of Christian Smart. But Christian's doing very, very good, considering we were talking earlier in the night about him getting inside the top 10. Christian's 5th place at the moment, so to be top 5 result, that's a good effort, but I think Jeff is going to do everything he possibly can to be eyes forward and try and nick that top 5 off of Christian, but doesn't want to make too many mistakes though, because if he makes a mistake, still 3 boys behind him that could very easily push him back towards the tail end of the top 10 as opposed to the pointy end or the mid pack of the top 10.
Yeah, definitely right. Well, I was just looking away, I'm not sure whether the racing controller have come through, but there has been a pit lane penalty issued to Robert Crisdale for contact on turn 1, lap 72, so I'm not sure whether we missed that or whether they didn't put it through, but yeah, Rob unfortunately caught the drive-through penalty for that contact with that we watched just on the replay before. But I know you just mentioned it before, but right now, 85 laps in this race, this is definitely where fatigue's going to start setting in for these guys.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a huge effort to do a double stint around Sandown on its own, but to be doing over half of what a normal Sandown 500 is around here. It's a very, very good effort to say the least. As yeah, all the boys have certainly gone past the 500 kilometre mark so far. Sorry, gone past 250 kilometre mark so far, which is yeah that half stint that we're talking about and keep referring to. And here it's going to be Scotty McCune pushing very hard, a little bit Taylor going in, and yeah, those rear tyres are not happy with him at the moment.
Yeah, that's right, man. We spoke about it earlier that it's going to be an absolute sprint race towards the end now, and these guys are going to be pushing incredibly difficult to try and get these tyres to hold on, and we're just noticing that a lot more now where the cars are starting to slide. They're having issues under brakes, they're having issues under power, and the one thing about a fixed setup series is you can't actually adjust your roll bars in these cars. The only thing you can adjust is your brake bias. So as these cars start to take off fuel, start to get light, and want to start to move around, you can't actually make any adjustments to the car, unfortunately, to try and stiffen it up or even soften it up to allow them to get that movement, get that car to settle properly. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot of these guys starting to come in with these issues of the car starting to get a bit of understeer on power on exit.
Yeah, it's the advantage. Yeah, I get what you're saying. You sort of said it perfectly there. If you've got the ability to adjust your roll bars as the stint goes on, that can make a much bigger difference compared to adjusting the brake bias. But if some of the boys are switched on enough to know what sort of compensations they can do for brake bias versus roll bar settings, it can almost fall in their favour as this side of the race goes on.
Yeah, definitely right. As I'll bring up the picture of the guys up in the lead there. Those 3 cars, Michael Talianci, Scott Gamble and Kenneth Latter, are battling incredibly close, and they're all staying together as we just see Michael up here at the moment. We'll start going back through the field as they continue battling. So behind this we've got Jamie McKnight down in position number 12, with Stephen Kennedy now in position number 13 behind that. There is quite a gap back to Travis Hunt of about 5.5 seconds. So, as we mentioned earlier, this track can really start to spread cars out, and you get these little battle packs forming, which we have Travis Hunt, Dean Flavelle and Peter Vanderkran in this 3-car battle for positions 14, 15 and 16 here.
Even though we're sort of starting to go down the pack a little bit, these boys will be pushing just as hard as if they were first in the dirt. They'll be doing as much as they can. Yeah, Peter will be doing everything he can to try and get that top 15. Which, yeah, like we keep talking on about, like, it's, if you can get into the top 15 or top 10 or top sort of one of the round number figures, it's always a huge boost to your confidence as you're going into the next round too. So to know that you can get within one of those sorts of points, it will certainly help with your confidence going into the next round.
Yeah, 100%. We always try and achieve those small goals that we try and get in that top 5, top 10, top 15. And Peter's one of those guys that just keeps pushing along and driving and getting faster and faster each week. So this would be a great result for Peter up in position number 16 to finish out this race. Move back forward and jump on board with Anthony Bismarck in the number 6 Commodore from Type Esports. Has Dan Hall in that better electrical Mustang right on his tail here. So these two have been battling. I've been watching the timing here for quite some time, and these two have been very, very close, battling backwards and forwards the entire time. So it's good to see once again as that better electrical takes a lot of that curb, and he has got mega taily coming out of there, which has now allowed Anthony to drive away a little bit. So that might have been the commentator's curse. I don't want to say it, but I think we've done it to him there, Nath.
Yeah, it's a certainly up there for a whoopsie from the commentator's point of view, but still, like we keep going on about, these boys are doing as much as they can to push as hard as possible right towards the end.
As we jump back on board with Christian Smart here, who's up in P5. So we talked about Christian earlier having an absolute great battle, and he's now back up into P5. My apologies there, bit of a hiccup. So, sorry, Nath, go ahead.
I was going to say he's done very, very well. He sort of seems to be one of those boys, Christian, where he's not always the quickest qualifier, but most weeks so far he seems to be pushing up through compared to where he started very, very well. So he's one of those repeat offenders of being able to move forward during the race, which is fantastic for us to see. And it's always one thing you want to see is people moving forward compared to where they qualified.
Yeah, definitely right. I've just noticed that Darren Goosey has passed Jason Fewens for position number 20 and 21. So we mention it all the time, but there's battles currently going all the way through this field, and these guys look like they're having a great one here, with Jason Fewens' car looking a little bit worse for wear, unfortunately. I think the Banner Alliance racing team might have a bit of work to do in the garage before next week, but I'm sure they'll manage to get it done and get that car in fine form for next Thursday.
Yeah, I think a lot of the boys there in the pit crew will be looking at that going. There might be a bit of eye rolling after the race, but during the race they'll all be having white line fever and hoping that he can do as good a job as anyone else, being able to get up as forward and as far as possible.
As we just have seen, I believe, an incident between Scott Gamble and Kenneth Ladder, which has allowed Mark Duggan, that little quiet sheep we spoke about before, down in P4, to now get up into position number 2. So we might have to jump on board here and see what's actually happened with Kenneth Ladder and Scott Gamble. So we did call it that it could happen at any point in time, and we'll jump on board now and see if I can find what's happened. Oh, that is very unfortunate for Scott there. It appears as though he has taken a lot of that curb on the inside, which has really unsettled the car. Kenneth sort of got a bit of a run, and then next thing you know, contact was made, and Ken has made contact with the rear of Scott Gamble's car and turned him around. Very unfortunate there. But once again, these guys are racing so hard and incredibly close. These sort of incidents are bound to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's a at the end of the day, it helps prove that we're all human and anything is possible. So to be able to, sort of witness one of that, not what we want to see, but if you're someone like Mark, quietly sitting there throughout the whole entire night, lap 92 of 97, and all of a sudden, you're starting to back yourself in.
Yeah, that's definitely right. We spoke about it with Mark being the quiet sheep there, just sitting back in 4th position, and with those guys battling so heavy in front, it was only a matter of time before even a smallest mistake happened, and Mark has now seen himself up into position number 2 for this race. The very interesting thing here is it's also brought Christian Smart back into the battle for position number 3 here.
Not far away at all, so...
No, definitely right. And if Kenneth Latta does get a pit lane penalty because of that incident with Scott Gamble, we may end up seeing Christian Smart sneak into P3 for this race.
And Christian's got everything to play for at the moment, so it's a one of those ones where you see yourself jump up in the relative, you see how you're going along. It's from his point of view, it's just push as hard as possible and see what's going to happen towards the end.
Yeah, so I have actually just seen that there is a penalty being handed to Kenneth Latta. So Kenneth Latta will be getting a drive-through penalty for contact with Scott Gamble on that last turn, which will see Christian Smart up into position number 3 with a very, very fast Jeff Thomas behind, looking now for that position.
Yeah, well, you're Christian and going and seeing, your eyes light up and knowing that you're going to get one more spot again due to what's happened in front of you. It's very exciting, but it's certainly not a all-over Red Rover battle for him. Certainly having Jeff Thomas pushing on as hard as possible behind.
And there it is there, the ball now with pit lane penalty for car 269, contact causing an incident on lap 90. So that's very unfortunate there for Kenneth, and I believe we'll see him come in this lap, as he does there, to serve that penalty.
Yeah, getting it over and done with as soon as possible.
As early as possible. So we did call it, Nath. We did say that all it would take is one little moment from these guys, and it can change the entire outcome of the race. So these boys have been racing for 90 laps, and now we've had a big change at the front with Michael Taylor-Ansich out in front, with Mark Duggan in position number 2, with Christian Smart up in position 3, with Jeff Thomas in 4, and Matt Vanderkram having a phenomenal drive up in position number 5, followed by Anthony Visma in position number 6, Dan Hall from Evolution Racing Team down in position number 7, behind with Scott Gamble after that earlier incident with Kenneth Latta on lap 90 there. And then you've got Scott McCune behind that in position number 9, and Damien Cairns rounds out our top 10 from Type N Esports. But he has a very, very hard charging Jamie McKnight behind him there in position number 11.
Yeah, Jamie can do everything he can to get inside that top 10.
Yeah, definitely right. So, just having a quick look here, the top 10 is currently about 18 seconds away from the lead of this race. So, you can see, even though this track is very, very tight, these guys can get a little bit of gaps here and there, and battle quite hard, as it looks like Scott Gamble and Dan Hall are about to have a bit of a battle here. So, two teammates, with Dan running the Better Electrical livery and Scott running the original Hornet livery. I believe that was from Evolution Racing Team, which was from one of their original liveries they ran, as I was talking to Brenton before.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about these retro rounds is seeing all the originals come out, whether it's the actual team original or a something we haven't seen in quite a while, sort of original. So it's always nice to see these retro rounds.
Yeah, definitely right. Jump back on board with Christian Smart for a couple of these last laps here with a very, very hard charging Jeff Thomas behind. So I noticed the gap was down to about 0.2 of a second there a second ago. So Christian may have had a bit of a moment coming down into the last part of in towards Dandenong, which has allowed Jeff Thomas to come right back on the back of him.
Yeah, he's certainly going to want to make sure he can put everything perfectly between now and the end of this race, Christian.
Yeah, definitely right, as we are on the second last lap of this race. So, hopefully Christian can get a good run here. He's done a fantastic job. We talked about it earlier with him coming up, even just trying to get into the top 10, and now he's on the back of the podium for a P3.
Certainly one of the big movers and shakers for the night.
Yeah, that's right, with a lot of other movers in the field. Jason Fewens, who is currently down in position number 21, he's actually come up 18 positions from starting from the back of the grid, and he's done a fantastic job to bring that car a bit battered and bruised up to where it is.
I reckon tonight is going to be more battered and bruised cars out there compared to non-battered and bruised ones.
Definitely right. I think the pit crews from this race are going to be very, very busy, as Michael Taliancic has taken the white flag for this race. Michael's done a fantastic job here. We did watch those strategies play out a bit earlier in regards to who the guys in the earlier time were going to go and when they were going to go. So we might jump back on board here with Scott Gamble and Dan Hall. Two teammates battling it out as hard as possible. So these guys will be talking to each other, and I wonder what the team, if there's any team orders, or whether they were just told to get on with it and battle.
Yeah, he literally just took the words out of my mouth there. I wonder how this last couple of corners are going to pan out.
Definitely right, as it appears though Michael Taliancic has crossed the line now to take the round 9 victory here at Sandown after 97 laps, and it looks like these two are going to maintain these positions as they cross the start finish line as well. That brings us back a little bit further to another battle that was going on just behind us here with Jamie McKnight and Damien Cairns. So another absolute fantastic battle there as they come across the finish line, and with Jamie looking like he can get it a better run than Damien there, but couldn't quite get the power down, and Damien still sees that getting that car across the line. So what we might do as these cars start to finish off the race here, we'll start to cross over and we'll go through our position finishing for the evening and wait for the guys to jump in the green room. We'll have a chat to them shortly. So in the meantime, ladies and gents, we might just run to a quick ad break for one of our sponsors, which will be Kumho Tyres, and then we'll come back and have a chat to the podium and run through our results for the evening. Well, ladies and gents, welcome back for the end of round 9 of the Sandown race. 97 laps. These guys must be absolutely exhausted. I know Nathan and myself are very much with a sore throat and going to need to have a few drinks after this. And as Michael Taliancic, our winner for this round, is currently leaving some nice big black marks on the straight there with Christian Smart as well. So I'm not sure how these guys have the feel for this, but it appears as though they do, so well done to them. What we might do is we might go through our results for this evening, as Michael's currently finishing up his burnout there. So in position number 1 we have Michael Taliancic from Pursuit Sim Racing, followed by Mark Duggan from Nova Motorsports. In P3, after getting a little bit of luck, is Christian Smart from Synergy Sim Racing. Jeff Thomas finishes out in position number 4 from JWM Motorsports, with Matt Vanderkraan rounding out our top 5 from Angry Birds Racing. We move on down to our two teammates in Dan Hall and Scott Gamble from Evolution Racing Team. Down behind that in position number 8 we have Anthony Visma from Tyre Esports, Scott McCune in position number 9 from Hypersonic Racing. Damien Cairns rounds out our top 10 from Tyre Esports. Down in position number 11 we have Jamie McKnight from Synergy Sim Racing, with Stephen Kennedy position number 12, and then Kenneth Flatter, after making that contact with Scott Gamble on lap 90, having to serve that drive-through, finishing up in position number 13. P14 we have Travis Hunt, and then down in position number 15 we have Dean Flavel from DFE Esports. Another fantastic drive from Peter Vanderkraan up in position number 16. David Kirby in P number 17 from Fishy Motorsports, with Matty Parker down in position number 18 from Nova Motorsports. Moving down further. Then unfortunately down towards the end here we have Darren Goosey in position number 20 from Old Mate & Sons. Jason Fewens in that very, very bent Banter Alliance racing car, up in position number 21. So he's had a fantastic drive from where he was, and he's managed to come up 18 positions from the back of the grid. So that's very, very well done. Position number 22 we see Chad Lewis from Evolution Racing Team. Position number 23 Marty Hansen from Type N Esports. 24 and 25 sees the brothers Chad and Rick Viger. Down in position number 26 we see Robert Crisdale from Frog Leap Juiced Racing. Position number 27, Jason Spriggs from Type N Esports. Michael Quain down in position number 28 for Old Mate & Sons. And then we start to see our cars that did not finish, unfortunately. Simon Heddersheed in position number 29, Greg Pavel in position number 30, which Greg was having a fantastic race and then obviously had engine issues. P31 sees Martin Casey, and then 32 sees Michael Schroeder from Old Mate & Sons, after being in those incidents with John Latham there a couple of times. John Latham currently in position number 23, sees the night out and 43 laps down, so these guys all parked the cars very early, with Stuart Hall in position number 34. Adam Simpson, after that very, very early on accident, happened down in position number 35, and then John King rounds out our field down in position number 36, retiring the car quite early after that that earlier on incident there. Very unfortunate for those boys to happen. As I think we've now got the guys all ready to go. They've all jumped into our current room here, so I might start dragging them up and we will start having a chat to them. What do you think, Nath?
Oh, I reckon I'm very excited to see how these boys go. But yeah, that was a very eventful race to say the least.
Yeah, definitely right. Congratulations, guys, on the race tonight. Lots of drama towards the end there.
What drama? I missed it.
You missed it? Oh, look, I'm not going to enter into that because I'm probably going to say there's going to be some heated discussions here at some point. But congratulations, guys. Michael, firstly for you on the win. Well done.
Thank you. I wasn't sure I was going to get it after that safety car came out. I was like pretty confident with my undercut and having a lot more fuel in the car to have a short stop. But as soon as that safety car came out, I thought I was in trouble because this track is very fast in the draft, and the two guys behind me were quicker than me. But obviously something's happened between them, and I haven't yet seen it. So, but I'm just fortunate for them. But I was holding on until before then.
Yeah, look, it was a very unfortunate incident that happened between Scott Gamble and Kenneth Latter. It happened down towards the end of that race where I think one of the cars got a bit unsettled on the inside corner there, which is a very, very common thing to do as you come across and you sort of clip that inside chicane there, which I know we all do. One of the cars got very unsettled and then just minor contact was made towards the rear, and unfortunately Kenneth got a drive-through penalty because of it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a no-win situation there when one car gets taken out, the other one ends up with a penalty when you're both looking at a podium.
Yeah, definitely right, and we don't want to see that ever, and it's just unfortunate, one of those things that I guess goes down in the books of we did say that there was a chance of it happening because these cars were battling incredibly hard for such a long time. And then we were watching Mark Duggan just sitting back, biting his time, and sure enough, Mark, it all paved the way for you to come through and give a P2.
Stephen Bradbury rises again.
Look,
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have the pace of the front boys. But by the end of the first stint, I couldn't feel my right foot with all the nerve damage I got in it, and I went off track a couple of times at the end of the front straight. I lost a toe, and then I was kind of in no man's land, and just kind of hung in there all race. That second safety car came and kind of lit up my Christmas tree again, and hung in there. I feel bad for Scotty Gamble. He deserved something out of the race. He hung in there and raced well all race, and it was unfortunate that he copped a minor hit from behind, but the angle of the car and the turning point was enough to turn him around. So feel bad for Scott and for Kenneth. They both deserve to be here, but here I am, and stoked. Thank you.
look, I know we want to say that it's very unfortunate for those guys, but we take these victories, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got to hang in there and do everything right yourself, and when the opportunity comes, you got to be there to grab it. And like I was lucky enough to hang in there all race and not make any big mistakes, and like just it came to me in the end. So a little bit of luck, but like I'll take it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We did say that on the broadcast in the last probably 4 or 5 laps. Nathan and I were talking about just seeing you sit back there, and eventually I think Nathan did actually quote that he might have Stephen Bradbury'd it here at some point, and we did see that happen, unfortunately, to both Scott and Kenneth. But fantastic drive there, Mark, and hopefully your foot recovers before next week. I know this was a long race.
Yeah, it was really long, but anyway, I mean, you just got to, like we all love doing what we do, and I love sim racing, and I love this series, and it's always good hard racing, and I'm just glad I hung in there, and the foot will be okay. I'll bounce back and look forward to next week.
Yeah, definitely right. We move on to next week, and I think next week's going to be very interesting because I think where do we go next week? We go to Spa, so
Oh yeah,
this could be very interesting with all these 35 cars trying to go up through Eau Rouge for the first time. That's always
yeah.
very interesting. So
Well, I kind of thought this race would have lap one after watching Scops and a few other races around here. I thought lap one here would have been a bit of a disaster, but credit to everybody in the field. They all did the right thing, and we got through there. So most of us, race pretty clean. I'm pretty confident Spa will be just as good as any other race. And I just want to quick shout out to Michael. Congratulations. He drove an awesome race. And for Christian, he did exactly what I did. Hung in there, and the race came to him in the end. He battled through the field from about 13th to 14th. So that was a mighty effort.
yeah, definitely right. And we might throw over to you to Christian there. How did you find the race?
That was a blast. I normally struggle around here, mainly with the curbs, and early on I just had jumped into one of my teammates, Kenneth, which is unfortunate where he ended up, and I shouldn't be here. But I jumped into his car and just watched his lines and picked up a few pointers and managed to just get a little bit quicker. Found a little bit of speed out of the set, and the set was awesome.
Yeah, look, so I do want to ask that question. How did you find the setup this week? Because I know a lot of guys were saying they were struggling there for a bit.
Not at all. I actually thought that the car came to you. If you look after the car, it would come to you. If you didn't abuse it too much on the curbs and ruin the tyres, the car was still as good at the end as it was at the start. So yeah, it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, I agree on that. I thought the setup was a cracker. The tyres hung in there the whole stint, and I found the car quite comfortable to drive. It's not an easy track, and I don't think this trying to set the car up for this track is pretty difficult. But I thought Jamie done a great job on the setup.
100%.
Yeah, look, I had a bit of a drive of it, and I did find the setup very nice to drive. So once again, credit to Jamie, credit to all you boys. It's definitely one of the best series out there with all being a fixed setup. So I guess it gives you guys plenty of chance to practice with the same setup. And I guess it all comes down to your ability to, one, either fuel save, or two, your strategy comes into play, because everyone's on an even playing field, aren't they?
100%. Yeah, definitely.
So, boys.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Mark.
Sorry, yeah, I was going to say, like, you know, the key thing about this series is if you don't make that big mistake somewhere in the race, you know, you'll end up with a good result. And yeah, like I think, you know, it's so evenly matched through the field, and it's really, yeah, it just comes down to driver strategy and the driver not making, you know, a major blunder during the race. And if you can keep the car clean, then you'll get the result you deserve.
Yeah, definitely right, and congratulations to all you three gentlemen. Um,
Thank you.
I know it's a long race, and I won't keep you for too long. So what I might do is I might hand back to you yourself there, Michael, and we'll go through some sponsors if you're happy to, and say some big shout outs and your thank yous to
Yeah,
who supports you through this race.
yeah. I'd just like to thank V&M Simulation and Sideways Photography. Thanks to Christian for giving me a bit of race practice yesterday. It kind of helped me. This is like the second race I've ever done at this track, so bit inexperienced here. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes that makes all this series work, and you guys at the broadcast. And yeah, hard luck to a few of the guys in the series. It probably wasn't the best race for them tonight, but hopefully they'll come back and keep racing hard for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's definitely right. It's as I said, it's one of those good seasons, and I think I'm going to work on getting the championship results for next round to bring up on the broadcast so we can see how tight it is, because I do believe it is very, very tight at the front for this season. I think Scott still holds a bit of a lead over, I think, yourself there, Michael,
I think I'll be leading the championship,
from memory.
even with drop rounds after tonight.
Yeah, so I think we'll have to see what the shake-up comes out of or after the re-standings of tonight, and we'll go from there. All right, Mark, I'll throw over to you in position number 2. Who would you like to thank tonight?
I'd just like to thank Race Control, admin for the series, the committee. I think everybody's done a great job. Track Racer, Turn Race Wheels, my teammates at Nova Motorsport, and that's about it. Thank you.
No worries at all. Thank you very much, Mark. And over to you, Christian, for your cast of thousands of sponsors.
Oh yeah, you guys sitting down. This will take a while. Yeah, just like to thank all the V8 veterans, all the guys that race and put this series together. All teammates at SSR. Got J Ross and Brenton and Brent O'Brien putting in huge effort here, making this series all happen. Yourself there, Cam and Nathan, good effort. And yeah, Jamie for the setup. That was awesome. Laurie Saunders at Torrent Safety, Tim Nickel Photography. We got Kumho Tyres, Quantum Tint. Was it Quantum Tint? Stuart, Ash, Blake, Blair. Yeah, all the guys. Taipan Events, Chastity and Michael Whiting as well. Safety Car, good work. And then for our sponsors there, we've got Wave Runner, Performance Centre, Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions, the Speedway Shop, Smith & Sons, DR Epoxy, DGD Custom, Australian Laminating Company, DO Photo, Posse's Mechanical, It's a Dog Life, Quality Kennels, and JK Signs, Newlon, 88 Media, Aftershock, Western Manister, and Too Easy Finance. Can't forget them, Jamie. And yeah, been the blade for Balin. We're still backing him.
I'm definitely glad I was sitting down for that, because I think that list gets longer and longer every week. I think you keep sneaking other ones in there, or I think Hobbo keeps adding things to the car that he doesn't tell us about.
Yeah, something like that.
Hey, well done reciting War and Peace off the top of your head.
Oh yeah, right.
There's got to be somewhere he's got that written down for sure. I think it's been scripted.
They call it an idiot sheet, don't they?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, congratulations, guys, on your round 9 positions for this evening. I know Nathan and myself are probably getting on a bit on the long side with our voices, and I think Nathan's gone to sleep over there.
Yeah, no,
Have-
nearly. No, just tuning in. Yeah, letting you boys enjoy the efforts that you've put in for tonight. Certainly a huge effort to say the least.
And a shout out to all the liveries that the boys done tonight. There were some crackers on track. So yeah, congrats to all the boys that run the liveries for yesteryear.
Yeah, definitely right. There was some fantastic liveries out there. I've got to say, Mark, I think I've got a suntan from yours over here
Yeah,
with all that
yeah,
chrome and
yeah. Well, I used to watch Alan Moffat down Oran Park, Emery Park, race this thing and the Coke Mustang and all the GTHOs and when I was a kid. And yeah, I don't know where the idea come from, but yeah, I thought I'll do the Brute 33 one, and I didn't think silver did it justice, so I chromed it up.
yeah, look, I'm definitely going to say probably these cars out there on the track were a little bit distracted by it because it was very, very bright for us in the broadcast booth. So I can't imagine how it was for the guys out in track.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you again, boys.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries at all, guys. So I might drop you guys out, and then Nathan and I will finish off the events for the evening, and we'll close this out.
Cheers, Cam. Thanks,
All
Nate.
right, thank you. See you guys.
Thanks, lads.
So Nathan, on to Spa next week.
It's gone from polar opposites here. We've gone from short, sharp, zippy, anything can happen Sandown to very long and drawn out, and make sure you get all your T's crossed and I's dotted for Spa.
Yeah, definitely right. Whenever the V8s go to Spa, it always brings up some very interesting racing, especially when they come up All Rouge for the first time.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
always a bit of chaos.
It's one of those corners where the whole field has to sort themselves out very, very, very quickly, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely right. So on that note, I think I might sign the night off. A big shout out to our race control guys. So for tonight we had Jordan Ross, Brenton O'Brien, Peter Baxter and Michael Whiting in the safety car for split 1. Down in split 2 we had Dave Coleman and Martin Lofthouse, and then down in split 3 tonight we had Josh Drage and Luke Holland driving the safety car. So it's been a very busy night, guys. Keep an eye on the YouTube and Facebook channel and announcements for when the split 2 broadcast will be done. Hopefully it'll be done tomorrow at some point before the Drivers Lounge tomorrow night with Mr. John Van Ree and the boys like usual. So any final words there, Nath?
No, just I'm like most weeks. I'm glad that I was watching tonight because it's been a very, and you hit the nail on the head before. It's been a very tiring one from our point of view, and we weren't even driving. So we thought we had some sore boys last week from Red Bull Ring. I think there's going to be even sorer boys tomorrow morning, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely right. So thank you, Nathan, for joining me tonight in the commentary booth. I know it's been a long one for you. You've been up since really early this morning, so do appreciate it. To those that have hung around, Stephen Murray, Ben, thank you for sticking out there and watching with us tonight. Congratulations to our podium, Michael Taliancic, Mark Duggan, Christian Smart. And as Ben mentioned, very unlucky to Scott, Kenneth and Greg Favell. They were all having a great battle and great races, and Greg with the hardware failure or engine failure, and then the incident between Kenneth and Scott towards the end of the race. Very unfortunate to see, but that rounds out the evening for our round 9 at Sandown, our 300-kilometre race. I believe that's the last one of the year, or the last one, sorry, of the series of our 300 kilometres. Where we're back to Spa next week with our 250. I think it was a 250k race next week.
Yeah, I believe so.
29 laps of Spa on November 17. So look forward to everyone tuning in then, and have a great night, guys. Bye for now.
See you.
The ever-changing weather around the world. Ever-diverse terrain and roads across the world. With Kumho Tyre that has conquered all. There is no road you cannot go. Go with Kumho. Kumho Tyre.